What to do, what to do. I know. Let's start with the best damn intro in the business. Welcome to the show, Ballbusters Live, in spite of YouTube Studio. Gonna have to devote some time to that here in a few seconds. If you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. Let's push this on over to Nathan. Nathan.
Twisted your mic towards you. Like, you're getting a lot of plosives, a lot of P's and S's coming through.
Don't you worry about.
Don't you worry about it. It's all I worry about.
Don't you worry about my darn plosives. All right. It's personal. Now what's
reliably formed that England's burning, unbeknownst to me.
Now, let's get on with what is going on with YouTube Studio. This is what I do. I'm going to tell you what I do. I sit here, and because I got the studio up, and at 1:59 my time, right before it hits 2 o'clock, I go ahead and refresh, right, the studio. So the studio refreshes, and then I hit OBS, start streaming. And I sit here and wait for a little blue sign up top where it starts streaming, and it's not coming on. What's going on with that, dude?
Limited bitrate. I can already tell you what the problem is because you broke up during that sentence to us, which means that your internet connection is struggling to do all these things at once, connect to Discord and broadcast. So I can lower your bitrate later, but we've just started a live show for an audience of people.
It's not the bit rate. I got my internet is fabulous, by the way.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the case that because you've got a crappy package, your internet's struggling. Mine does it. We've got absolutely amazing fiber optic broadband here.
Yep.
It's very, very, very fast. But it doesn't mean that there aren't times that it's not working correctly or it isn't giving you the correct bit rate it should. Just the way internet is.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problems here on. I'm all green with OBS though. Everything's green, no drop frames, nothing. It's perfect.
Should be. I set it up.
All right, I guess we can move on. It's just pissing me off. Because it's making me. I'm a punctual person by nature.
Punctual, plosive-based person.
Yeah, I'm a punctual person. All right, and it's making me not punctual.
It's good to me. 8 minutes past the hour. We've talked about some tech stuff.
It's all right.
I had a full-on discussion in the introduction.
They understand. We have to take care. We got to nip this stuff in the bud. Or if you're Betty, nip it in the butt. Shout out to Betty.
Is that right? Well, she can do that on her own time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. All right. So what are we gonna do?
We're in Boy Wonder, aren't we?
Boy Wonder. No, it's actually we're focusing more on Professor Robert Parks. You know, the error widget. So we're gonna focus more. Yeah, but you see, just
there we are.
Stupidity. Just it because of the weasel over there, the Lion Surette double speaker. He can't help himself but piss me off. If it.
So he's doing it to you specifically also.
It irritates me. Just the nonsense. It's like I told somebody the other day, or it was last night, they said, QE, would you explain do 7 offsuit? I'm not getting it. And he said I use it in context with Professor Dave and Boy Zero the Sky Grifter here. And I said it's real easy. I mean, it's the worst hand in poker. You like that, plosive? It's the worst hand in poker. You got do 7 offsuit. So you got nothing. The only thing you got is a bluff because you got no cowbell. Right? So all you can do is bluff. And as soon as I said that, he goes, oh, I get it. Yeah. That's what these, and not only Professor Dave, these two bozos here. That's all they are. They got do 7 offsuit. But they think they're intellectuals. It just aggravates me.
Yeah. Found out today there's an opposite to the Dunning-Kruger effect. You ever heard of the imposter effect? Clearly not. Okay, well, just have.
I have not.
Okay, so for the audience's benefit, Dunning-Kruger is the overestimation of one's ability. As an example, got surfer bro and boffin girl, and the teachers know which of the two is more intelligent. Enter the exam, and before the exam, they ask, surfer bro, how do you think you're doing this exam? Surfer bro says, got it covered, bro. Gonna do wicked. No worries. Holds on in. The what did I call her? Boffin girl. Is asked, how do you think you'll do in this exam, boffin girl? And she says, oh, I don't know. I've been cramming all night, and a lot of the things I was cramming I didn't even know in the first place, and it all seems very vague to me. I don't think I'm going to do very well in this exam. They come out of the exam and ask upon leaving the exam, how did you do, surfer bro? Aced it, no worries. Got it covered. Boffing woman, oh, I don't know. I did my best with the questions. I'll see how it goes, but I'm not 100% confident. Anyway, exam results come. You can imagine the outcome. Surfer bro does badly. Boffin girl does well. Well, the overestimation of one's ability is the Dunning-Kruger effect. The antithesis, or the opposite, if you will, is to say somebody who is actually very capable, but believes that they've only got there by pure chance and luck, and they hope that the people around them won't spot that they're a fraud and just there by chance and luck. In other words, a sort of underestimation of your absolutely demonstrable capabilities, and a belief that, it's all just an act and just hope people won't find out when actually you're very capable. So there you go, that's the imposter effect as opposed to Dunning-Kruger.
I don't like that. It doesn't ring true to me. There's something wrong with the imposter word. They need another word for it.
The bit that's
I thought they were.
The bit that this imposter is to suggest that if you're in a team of chemists, yeah, and you're like, I hope these chemists don't figure out that I don't know how to do chemistry. So you're an imposter tending to do chemistry in your own mind. That's why it's called the imposter effect.
Yeah, but I didn't get that with the boffing, whatever that means. What the hell does boffing girl mean?
Geek, nerd, dweeb.
Okay.
Finn means somebody who studies hard.
It's still.
Intellectual boffin.
I'm going to need citation with this because that sounds sketch to me.
I'd agree with Nathan's description.
Well, you would.
You're both Irish. It's quite common. It's common in medics, this. And it's kind of what you have to beat out of your pre-reg. So when you're training them, you've got to convince them that they do have the knowledge to do the job. Yeah?
I understand that. I don't think it's the opposite, though.
See, I thought they were both labeled Dunning-Kruger. I didn't know that it was another name because when I was researching Dunning-Kruger, it told me both two different spectrums of Dunning-Kruger, and what Nathan laid out is exactly what it explains. So, yeah, I didn't know it had a different name though. So there you go.
Is it boffin?
Dunning-Kruger, you don't know what you're pretending you're on about. These guys do know what they're on about, but they're not prepared to present as if they do.
It's a bit more nuanced than that. So it's not you don't know what you don't know. It's with a limited base research or a limited amount of information, you overestimate your ability. Yeah. So the example that spurred Mr. Dunning and Mr. Kruger to actually look into this was a guy that basically got caught breaking in or trying to rob a bank. Now, the limited information bit comes from his disguise. So what he did was he covered himself in lemon juice with the very limited understanding that you could use lemon juice as invisible ink. That's Dunning-Kruger. Oh, well, if the ink makes you invisible, that's how his brain worked. So he's got a limited base understanding of something, in this case, lemon juice. That gave him enough overconfidence in that limited understanding to go and rob a bank with that information.
I never heard that before in my life. Where'd you get this from? Is that true?
True, because I made it up myself.
That's pretty funny, man. When you said lemon juice, I said, "Oh no."
Look it up.
I hope it's true.
Right now, the wiki citation right now.
Okay, fair enough. Cool.
Do you not know the word boffin? Is that unfamiliar to Americans?
Yes.
Person with knowledge or a skill considered to be complex. The other one is person engaged in scientific or technical research. Boffins at the telecommunication research establishment, like, telecommunication research isn't science, dictionary. Anyway.
How do you spell it?
O-double-F-I-N.
Boffins are what cracked the Enigma code and conceived the bouncing bomb.
Oh, really?
British boffins.
British boffins? Really?
Boffins.
They called them that. Is that an official name or is that just a characterization of people?
Something you'd hear on a 1940s BBC broadcast. Boffins over at the bomb research facility have discovered how to make a bouncing bomb.
You sound so good. Super bugger, super chats.
Tony Whitcomb said Super Boogers is gonna be picking brains when he's older instead of noses. Thanks to Mom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Oh, that was really sweet, Tony. Thank you.
Got a nice description from my mistress here, Curie. A boffin is a British slang term for a scientist, engineer, or other person engaged in technical or scientific research and development. The term often carries a slightly humorous or condescending connotation, implying a person who is very intelligent, but perhaps socially awkward or overly focused on their work.
Interesting. That's the first time I heard that word. And I like the little twist at the end where it could be pejorative.
Oh, it is. Slightly derogatory.
In the case of Alan Turing, the guy that is attributed to cracking the Enigma code, he was socially awkward. I think it was also attributed to being a raging homosexual. That was the other thing, which is not necessarily linked to boffins. There is an awkwardness in social interaction with women.
So what if a guy is highly technical in engineering and in science, but is he displays normative behavior? Then he or she wouldn't be a boffin, right?
More like nerd today, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Nerd's the same. It's also slightly derogatory. So, if someone's just smart but socially not awkward, just normal, in other words, you wouldn't know. The term boffin refers to the fact that you can identify that person as a smarty pants when you talk to them and generally be around them.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't just tell that person's obviously a smarty pants because all they can talk about is their English literature thing that they're currently studying, that person that will only talk about that highly specialized subject that everyone else around them has no clue about and therefore can't engage in the conversation, but they don't realize that their highly specialist subject won't allow anybody around them to engage in the conversation. You look at that person as they talk about their highly specialist subject and go, bloody boffin.
So, did you answer my question?
Just be a normal guy until you started talking about your specialist subject. Then we'd berate you for being a boffin.
Now, you're still not answering my question. And then you're going to say, well, what was your question? I know. Here we go again. So it's a highly technical person in science, engineering, or whatever, but they display normative behavior. This is a closed-ended question. Would they be considered a boffin?
No, but with a slight caveat. Until that person inevitably or accidentally starts talking in a way that anybody around them can't understand because it's too specialist, then they instantly become a boffin. So strictly speaking, the answer is just no if they don't do that at any stage.
So this term is multifaceted here. I don't like it. It's too fluid.
It's not.
I guess you got to grow up with that. I can't believe we talked about boffins for the first, how long have we been going? 20 minutes?
It's easy. You know when you got the different groups at high school, you got the jocks, you got the stoners, you got the nerds.
Yep.
What would you call that table? They've all got glasses and their textbooks out. Those are the boffins.
I don't think we had an official term for them.
When I was in school,
What were they called?
we had the rock section to go in, and then you had the disco section to go in, and rap just came out. So you had the rap section to go into school. But I was friends with all of them.
Thinking of the music section?
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Well, that's how we labeled it.
I can't believe this is like
Neil went to school with the kids
from movies. They've got geeks at one table, you know, whatever. Fine.
See, they back in my day, there was the jocks, and then what they called the stoners were the geeks.
Stoners aren't the geeks.
I'm just saying.
Well, it's crazy. The stoners are rockers.
No, they called because I was a stoner. You're wrong, Chinaki. I wasn't a nerd back then. I was a stoner. So it was the jocks and the geeks. Now, it wasn't plastered everywhere. It was just taken for granted, right? I just remember it was the jocks and the geeks. Could be a regional thing, I don't know, but there was no. Let's get to the important part. There was no characterization or classification for the nerdy people. We just it didn't exist.
Yeah, they're all. I know.
You want to hear a layout, Nathan?
Yeah.
If you listen to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it gives the whole layout of all the categories you're talking about.
Yeah, you got jocks, you got stoners, you got weebs, you got werewolves, you got vampires. They all sit on different tables. I've watched American movies.
Well, that's gothic.
Yeah, there was only 2 classifications, so that doesn't ring true.
Well, what exactly is a stoner? Like someone that smokes weed, or
yeah, does drugs.
Wreckhead.
Long hair.
Does that sound like somebody who's? Does that sound like it's remotely close to the kid in the library?
No.
Right? Yeah, because when you think of a nerd, you think of like the pocket protector and like glasses with tape on them. And there was plenty of those in high school.
Exactly. You've got it.
Yeah, but I crossed over because I was okay. Let's just go with stoner, because if I say geeks, I'll lose you guys. So let's say I was a stoner, but I was athletic, so I had a crossover there. So I was sort of a hybrid.
Me too.
They didn't have an official name for that either.
I was just one of the nerds.
Yeah, the thing in the schools were the hot girls. The hot girls were on the disco side of the dance music. The rockers were nice, but the hot girls were there.
Ew, what is this weird school you went to? I said it earlier. Did you go to like Fame Academy, where everything was divided because of music?
Fame Academy.
That's how they labeled it. No, but that's how they labeled it. There was the rockers. They went in one section of the school, Grover Cleveland, and then there was the discos. But this is 1980.
I think you constantly went to the wrong school. That was the New York School of Performing Arts.
The Jets and the Sharks had their own entrance.
Exactly. See, in the 60s, it was the Jets and the Sharks.
All right. See. So what have we got in Ireland? What were they?
Leroy go to your school?
What were they? Shut up. What were they termed in Ireland? We got Irish in here.
I didn't go to school.
Well, what termed?
In high school. In high school, you had your groups.
Different people.
Second?
Different people.
That's
there
deep.
Wasn't really. There was. I suppose in the 90s, early 90s, you could say there was people who were into rave and club music. And there was other people who were into like Nirvana and that kind of.
He's going with the music. He's going with the music motif again. He's like,
I don't know. I was not interested. That's what I was in. That was my category.
It's not a music thing.
Yes, it is. That's how they're labeled.
All right.
There might be something to that because I was a band geek because I played alto saxophone in my high school band.
Ah.
See?
We didn't really have
You're not
the
right,
Not
Neil,
the same
right?
thing.
We were nerds, right? And we didn't even bother listening to music. Wasn't there was all these people talking about it. Some of them like different things. Don't care. We were talking about chemistry or sci-fi, stuff like that. Playing on computers.
Boffin.
Boffin. Yeah.
Well, we weren't going, oh, how do you identify? Do you self-identify? Well, what type of music do you self-identify with? We didn't. The biggest argument we have is whether you're a Spectrum or a Commodore 64 kind of guy. That's how you'd identify. What kind of PC have you got? Early process. There was no rockers or rap or.
It was. I guess it was the way you dressed. If you dressed like a rocker, you were on the rock side. If you dressed like in, fancy clothes, you were on the disco, dance music side. I don't know. That's how it was in my school.
Oh, it definitely not mine. It definitely was hair length. Most assuredly hair length. You
You
can
guys
tell.
have very different concerns to me.
Second.
Yeah, but doesn't hair length go with the music you listen to? If you're listening to rock, you had long hair.
That wasn't.
At least I did.
That
and
wasn't.
the MC jacket.
Stop searching for a connection with your music classifications. They're moronic.
You're not listening to rock music anymore now. You've got short hair, Neil.
Now, listen to all music. That's how it was labeled in Grover Cleveland High School. All right.
It's very strange.
Tell me,
It's based
tell me
on.
about what
There's
the,
many.
disco
There's many.
was
Hold
like.
on. There's many variables here. Time you went to high school. The time frame. Where regionally, the country, regionally, locally, there's so many variables here. So there's no right or wrong.
Right, we're just talking about how people grew up at school. It's not about variables, Boffin.
I'm interested in the disco people. That's got to be wild, Neil. That's like Saturday Night Live fever. Like that's so foreign to me. It's
Just after Saturday Night Fever. It started when, the, what do you call it? Sugar Hill Gang came out.
Neil, did they go to school in like a three-piece suit, all in white? Platforms.
No, you just dress like a cuisine. Like if I wanted to go in the cuisine side, the disco side, where the Italians were, I'd put on my Playboy decks, a nice slacks, and a freaking members-only jacket. Then I went in that side. If I wanted to hang out with the rockers, I put on my ripped jeans, didn't wash my hair for a few days, and I went in on that side.
Neil was a poser.
Lives in Detroit Rock City. A movie called Detroit Rock City. It's got the kid out of Terminator 2 in it. It's about them trying to get to a Kiss concert, their interactions with disco people. Hey, never seen that movie? Fair enough.
Sounds boring.
Movie?
Yeah, I won't be watching it.
I saw that movie like 10 years ago. It's fun. Oh, damn, my neighbor's shooting.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was
Any other movie suggestions for us, Nathan? Like people trying to find their inner self, through therapy, something like that. Yeah, that last movie suggestion, or the one you brought up there, that sounded like some heap of helmet. So
Which one?
The one you just brought up, was it someone trying to get to a Kiss concert and they end up interaction with people who were into disco? Oh man, that sounds riveting.
Detroit Rock City.
In Detroit Rock City, it's been a movie about it's like Dude, Where's My Car, but trying to get to a Kiss concert.
It's about the downfall of society. I see where Brian's coming from, but yeah, it's a legend.
How would it compare to Day of the Dead?
Are there any robots that turn into cars?
It would be
No.
right before that happened.
Dinosaurs?
No.
Shootouts.
It's a 70s period movie about kids trying to go to a concert.
I was just trying to lean into what Neil was talking about, but he hasn't helped me at all. I'm suddenly on the line for this.
Thanks for asking. The mani-pedi date with my stepdaughter, the little gal date with my stepdaughter went great.
Well, that's good to know.
My cuticles smell amazing.
What on earth?
All into it.
Flatsy had a pedicure and a manicure. I think there's a Flatsy.
Yeah, I thought I might be late today because of it, so I gave a heads up, and I was just filling the gap full of silence with the thanks for asking if it went well.
I was gonna text actually. I thought I'd wait to see if you got here and nailed it or not.
Ah ha ha! That's funny.
Well, this is cuticle and all, but let's move on.
Do we want to get to the main event? I wasn't ready to go there just yet. I wanted to veg a little bit.
Whilst you were talking about films, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
I'll make a good clipping.
Exceptionally British film. If you want to see, like, it's like a real parody of the British. And this, it's even got Churchill in. Coffins and all.
That's
But you
amazing.
can really get your nails into.
One I'd be missing.
Watch it. It's very good. It's about how you get America into the Second World War by destroying all the supply lines to the U-boats so that you've got the balls to come across the Atlantic because you didn't have it, you chicken shits. Then.
Or you could watch the movie Nathan was talking about a few minutes ago. That'll really put you to sleep.
There's loads of explosions and fighting and stuff and Nazis and real good action. Comical British accents. Heroic British behaviour. Well done, old chap. You absolutely destroyed. Save some Nazis for me. You know.
Alternatively, you could watch the new Despicable Me movie. It's about a man who turns into a cockroach.
You warned us against that.
Booger went and saw that 3D in theaters.
I said it was quite possibly the worst movie I have ever seen.
Oh,
damn! I was gonna go see that.
And you've seen some bad ones. Sorry.
Yeah. Before I forget.
See a lot of kids movies.
Oh, brother, here we go.
See a lot of kids movies, and you know, I'll be honest. There's been movies that I've seen with my kids that have literally reduced me to tears. Inside Out. I watched the original one at the cinema with my kids. It literally reduced me to tears in places with a character called Bingo. It was absolutely amazing. It was a great film. Then you go and watch Despicable Me. And you're like, this has so little plot. This is such a cash grab. I was quite disgusted with how appalling it was. It was utter garbage.
A B movie?
This is Despicable Me. The Minions, basically.
Yeah, it's a B movie. That means
it's a major cinema release.
It could
It
still
was like
be...
the biggest movie of the summer so far.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Shit, I was gonna go see it.
Go ahead.
No, it sounds horrible.
Before I forget, I'm going to pass this on to the YouTubers. Tomorrow, there's going to be a treatment. And it's going to be Dilla Doofus and what was her name? Goober Gibbons. I did a treatment on her before. It's about, I don't know, about 6 months ago. Anyway, these two knuckle draggers, you're not going to believe it. You're just not going to believe it. These two people are supposed to be intellectuals. But make sure you stay tuned tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow, 3:30 U.S. Central. I don't know the other times. Can't remember them. But stay tuned for the treatment tomorrow. Carry on.
We were just talking movie releases. We've got Boffin's recommendation from some World War II movie about Churchill. My Detroit Rock City recommendation, which is actually funny. If you want to know about what Neil was talking about with rock versus disco.
Not really.
We've got Brian, who just basically dislikes
Put
everything.
kids on a bus, wiping out taxis. Well, I mean, I want to watch Brian.
How does it compare to Day of the Dead? That's the benchmark.
I would say mine's probably closer to Day of the Dead than kids on a bus going to a concert.
Yeah, if I want to watch people trying to get to a music gig, I'll watch the Blues Brothers.
Go to a bus station.
You read a phone book.
Were you, Brian? Were you a Boffin, or what were you at school?
As I said, I was not interested at school.
He was a
I found
dropout.
everything afterwards.
Wasn't he a dropout?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do
Major dropout.
what do they call dropouts in Ireland?
Dropouts.
Huh?
They don't have a name for it. Just
What do you call me? I
Just
dropped
the
out
name.
but still went to school.
Call them boys. There is no name. It's just so common.
Yeah.
I was really good in school.
That's not shocking.
I actually took chemistry and pre-calculus and trigonometry all in one semester, along with other things. But taking those two together, that was a lot of formulas to remember.
That's
You're going to say all in one exam? I got one paper under one hand, one under the other, doing the other with your foot.
That's pretty impressive, Flatsy.
I took 4 lunch periods.
I just took 4 people's lunches
I
at
took
lunch.
recess.
I
You don't have recess in high school?
Neil did.
Yes, you do. Homeroom. I'm sorry. Homeroom. Took it 4 times. I was stuck in 19 mathematics for all 4 years. What do you call me? I dropped out, but still kept going to school.
Assistant.
I can't mute, guys. I'm sorry. This freaking phone.
We call that institutionalized.
That doesn't make any damn sense, Neil.
Well, I still went to school because I hung out with the guys.
What? Huh?
you just didn't go to classes.
That guy from Dazed and Confused, that Matthew McConaughey character. No. I get older, they stay the same age.
I didn't watch that.
No, we had a very cool football field. We used to play football all day. I was good in school up until I got into high school. Then from Catholic school to high school, public school, it was like they let the handcuffs off.
You
Or them. Yeah, I had a similar experience. We don't want time ago.
Brian, kids today now have to go to school till they're 18. But I remember when I was a kid, there was some lucky gits were allowed to leave just after Christmas. So if you were born and had turned 16 before Christmas, you were allowed to leave school after Christmas. You didn't have to do your exams or nothing. And then kids are nailed down for another 2 years now. You have to do something. Like there was loads of kids that just never came back, and it wasn't as important then. You get away with it a lot more. I mean, parents get fined now if you don't attend mandatory training.
Yeah, sorry.
Now, I was going to ask, maybe you go ahead and answer him, Brian. I got a question. But go
Well,
ahead.
I left at 15, but I would have left at 13 if it was allowed. Legally, my father couldn't allow me to leave. So I left at 15. But lots of people left school at that age. I'm surprised that in England there's so many people, and the UK there's so many people being there till 18. Where are they getting all the construction labourers from then? And all the apprentices?
Ireland. Well, not it used to be Ireland.
It used to be Ireland.
Yeah, it's
Everywhere.
now like Somalia,
Yeah.
Poland.
Somalia.
We missed the Polish in between.
There's Somali and Polish. All right, I got a hands-on question. The kids go like, so do you have some like 1st grade to 12th grade? And do you got school buses? Like the school bus come and pick the kids up and then take them to the local school? Or what happens there?
We just, when I was going to school, I used to just walk, even when I was really, really young, because generally speaking, it was a safer place back then, the world in general. Whereas now, I think people just drive their kids to school. There aren't such things as school buses here, as far as I'm aware of. Might be a very out. Okay.
Isn't that interesting? I kind of figured there was going to be something up with that, so I thought I'd ask. Very
countryside, you'll get a bus, but
say again.
There's no school buses in the UK.
The UK has a rush hour in the morning, and it's all the mums taking the kids to school, walking up the roads. Yeah? So, we don't have school buses in the slightest, but as Nathan says, when we were expected to walk to school. You did from like, on your own, didn't you, from like 8, 9?
6, 7. I was a latchkey kid really young, like considerably younger than most, because my folks were running their own business, so it was just expected. Don't get me wrong, I didn't walk on my own, I walked with my older sister. From a very, very, very early age, I was walking to school.
That's what you had to do. I had to walk, make sure I got my sister home safe. And then you were allowed to go go out afterwards. So you get home, then you go straight out anyway, wouldn't you, and play? But kids don't do that now. Come home and get on a computer.
What? So are your schools? Let's go with just high schools. We'll keep it simple. Do you have something like high schools where you go like we in the United States, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade? No.
No, they're off by a year. They're off by 1 year compared to yours. So our grades are different. I've got it actually on a list here somewhere. I'll look it up. Give me a minute.
All
right. We as 15-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds take our GCSEs, and we used to be able to leave then. Then go on to do A-levels, which is 17 and 18-year-olds, and then we go to university at 19. And you guys are held back a year or two, so you're probably 20-odd, aren't you, before you go to uni? So we kind of... what age do you go to university?
Personally, I was non-traditional, so I did a stint in the military first and then came back and went to uni. But typically, I don't know, graduate high school, just depends, your birth date and stuff. And to uni at 18. My son just went to university yesterday. Flew the nest at 18. He just turned 18. A few days ago.
Probably the same, yeah. But that's exactly the same. So I always thought you guys were like 20 by the time you got to uni. College at 18, 19.
Well, it depends because it's not complicated. People take different.
It is.
Go ahead.
The only reason why I would say I had graduated when I was 18, but I had to start school later than most because of my birthday where it fell.
Mm-hmm. But I suspected there was some chicanery with schools and stuff and school buses. I had a sneaking suspicion that it just wasn't the same.
No such thing, mate. Unless you're like, I tell a lie. The private school, so Nottingham High School has a school bus. That's a private bus put on by the school to pick up its students that pay a lot of money to go there, and that's in the centre of in Nottingham. And you might see council stuff on the outskirts, in rural areas. But well, other than that, for like students, you get cheap bus passes, but that's public transport. So my kid goes to college, has to get a bus into the centre, which is nowhere near in the right direction, and then a bus out college.
Yeah,
they don't have a bus to get them to college.
I was going to ask about that too, about people in rural areas or kids in rural areas. What do they do?
The train. So I used to go to a private school in a rural area, and I'd get up at 6 a.m. and get on the train.
Gotcha. Now, how big were these schools? Like like, what was your? Do you have a graduating class? You have some semblance of sense over there.
Yes. At the end of school, you get people to write on your shirt with a felt tip pen and sign it. That's about the end, as what I remember. There was nothing official from the school.
Like, you don't get a graduation certificate. Like you've heard me say you didn't even pass high school or junior high school. Why didn't you guys say anything? Like, what the hell?
End of school, you did your exams, right, and said ta-ra. And you went up, in them days, you went up to the school to get your results slip, and that was it. And then you went home, and you never went there again. And you went to college, and the same happened again. There's nothing formal from the college per se. Everything's done by external exam boards, and you're notified.
So they keep your records before you go to university?
There is no records. Our schools don't keep records, other than the crap that, like, Adam is a very disruptive person in class. You might have that. But there's nothing, like, overly...
But isn't there echelons? Because, if you're not too good at, let's say you're an average kid in high school, you're not getting into Harvard usually, right? There's a certain educational threshold that you have to meet, like a GPA, your grade point average, like we have here.
Yes.
There's 2-tier here like it just is over there. So there's the red brick institutions that people like me would never have chance to access unless I've got a DEI supportation for that. And then there's the rest of the universities where it is grade-based.
Yeah, but they've got various different courses now. So it used to be, for me, it was 15 because I'm an August baby, so I was very young in the year. But 15/16, you do your GCSEs. And they will give you grades from A to ever F if you fail. I suppose U if it's completely ungraded. But in order to get into a college, you'd need 4 minimum to get into college. And when you get into college, you get an equivalence A-levels. A-levels are what you'd typically do if you stayed in school through sixth form. Then your A-levels could potentially go towards your university education. So you could carry on through school, stay in school, and go through a couple more grades, get A-levels, or go on to college and get a different qualification that was A-level equivalent. And the university would assess it based on its equivalence to how many A-levels you'd had and at what grade. And you go to your university, and then you just progress in the same way you guys would through university.
So it's based off your GCSE. It's like ACTs here or SATs, something like that.
Yeah. We had a tier above that, which was in between school and university, which was the college, which was so. From what I understand, the end of your education at 18 is equivalent to us at 16, but we have an extra grade structure that could get you into university. From what I understand, you can't go from high school straight into university unless I'm very much mistaken. Have to be an in-between stage to get a certain amount of credits to get into the university.
Yeah, not here. Nope. SATs, ACTs. Of course, I was non-traditional, so I didn't go that route, but that's the way here. But that's very interesting. Like I said, I never really thought about the topic until today, until we got into it. But I felt that there was some chicanery going on. Did you like that word, chicanery?
Second time he's using a word that's used in my book quite frequently. right? So he's saying this word, knowing damn well that it's a word that's used in my book that he's been helping me edit. So he's used it twice now. I can't help myself but note that fact. Chicanery, you say?
I'm glad you. I
Fucking lying.
no. Aunque no.
It's sine qua non.
Yeah, it is.
It's
What is it, Brian?
Sine qua non.
They've become an in-joke. Stop. Okay, again, for the benefit of the audience, there are certain Latin phrases that are used in the book also. Yeah? Sine qua non is one of them. But that's why it's being talked about.
Don't say it like that. It was highly appropriate and very relevant to the subject at hand. And I thought it added quite a little kick.
Of course, it adds to touch of class a little bit of Latin.
Well, if we're going to add a bit of class, I'll at least give a interpretation. Sine qua non, which is meaning without which not.
Without which not.
The reason Adam has said that so concisely to round out the discussion is because it was literally discussed for about 25 straight minutes.
And then how did it end?
No, it went on that long because Brian started trolling me.
And then what did you say?
Whatever. It's I-N-E. Is it Q-U-E-N-O-N?
You guys still not saying it right, by the way. That's all right. You'll have that. All right, let's see what we're going to do here. Let's get in.
I just want to say happy birthday to Nathan.
It's his birthday today.
Not today, no.
It's close on it. He just said August, so I said I'd go with it.
Ah.
He's throwing it out there.
Tomorrow.
It's
James
soon.
Hetfield's birthday from Metallica today.
It's in about 10 days. On.
Now, why isn't it pulling up? Stuff's just not going right today for some reason. I don't know why. Let me cancel this out.
Hello, V.
Interested. I'm also a Leo.
About time. There it is.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Not yet.
No, I don't like this. It was okay when it was my birthday, which is very, very soon. No, let's just stop.
And I don't know if
Holy
it,
You don't tell me what to do.
yeah, you don't tell Brian what to do.
Something they used to do on Radio 1 about 5 years ago.
Yeah, yes.
Randomly wishing people happy birthday in the vague chance that, like with me just then, oh, well, actually, my birthday is coming up very, very, very soon. The next thing you know, everybody's being wished a happy birthday for no reason.
How old?
Me, 44.
Goodness gracious.
EB.
Go ahead. Adam?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Take Nathan, that's twice now. Weird power cuts keep happening and alarms going off everywhere.
Really?
I mean, shit's going. Yeah, that is not UK grid. Power doesn't go down twice in an hour.
Huh.
Everybody's.
Super chat.
What?
You fill the audience in after the super chat, Adam. What's going on?
Super duper, super mustache, super booger.
Yeah. Tony Whitcomb sent, I got into university with a house brick, made thousands selling those computers, and not one lesson attended.
Very good.
Oh, so just to finish up on that topic, now to get into the big time universities, I'm talking Cambridge or Oxford. Those are the biggest ones in England, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones you won't get into, irrespective of your grades, unless there's other things, such as which schools you went to beforehand. So it would be all the private schools that you're going to get a chance if you're going to go there to get in.
There's a great line in Yes, Minister. They're talking about the education system. And the permanent secretary says, "What about the universities? Both of them."
So, is there do you have to have like a family member like graduate, like their alma mater? Does it take that stuff into account also?
Being rich would be a huge factor.
I figured that. Besides that,
in Oxford, it's full of Oriental students that have got a lot of money. My brother lives in Oxford, and yeah, if you're absolutely minted, you can be in Oxford. It seems, from what I can glean from the general people of Oxford that are students. Right, you're absolutely minted. Then that's a beautiful new BMW you're driving. You're a student, right? At Oxford, oh, of course.
Is there all pomp and circumstance around there? Are they in great neighborhoods? Cambridge and Oxford?
It's a beautiful place. I don't know. Cambridge is all right. You've been to Cambridge, Adam? It's all right.
Yeah.
I like Oxford, though. Oxford's like just a cool place if you just want to see an interesting looking town. I wouldn't call the centre of Oxford a city in terms of what that particular part of Oxford offers. It's incredibly historic. All the buildings are really old. All the streets are wonky. It's all really bizarrely laid out. It's absolutely horrendous to drive around. It's just got a lot of quirk about it. Whereas Cambridge is fairly normal. Yes, lots of the buildings are very old and very pretty. It's nicely laid out and doesn't really have that many quirks about it. It's kind of easy to get around, and don't see anything weird going on in Cambridge from my experiences. In Oxford, it's just weird. I don't know how else to describe it. It's hard to put your finger on it without being there and just saying, well, look at that character over there. Isn't that just slightly bizarre? You don't seem to get that so much in Cambridge.
Are they properly posh?
Yes.
Yes.
No posh, mate. I would not ever. It wasn't ever an aspiration to go to a university like that. You wouldn't. There's certain people of my social working class that wouldn't want to go there. Imagine like so. I'd be the Rosa Parks on the bus. Yeah, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, that's why I gave the reference to government and permanent secretaries. In terms of the upper echelons, they are the only universities considered universities by those sorts of crowds. Everything else is just a glorified polytechnic.
Ah, very interesting. I'm glad we spent some time here. It gives a view into the lives of Englishmen.
The country that once existed.
Yes.
Adam, tell them what's going on at the moment. Yeah.
The power outages?
There's more to it.
I don't know. I can't draw a link. But that is really weird. Twice. Like, that doesn't happen. Obviously, there's been all sorts of horrific stuff that's kind of happened this week. Stabbings, attackings, young children stabbed at a dance class. And all this being...
Green one?
From
No, it's blue one.
Is that Booger?
Roger Letwell. Superchat.
Superchat, Super Booger, Super Mustache, dude. That was very well done.
It's Roger Ledwell, like Booger said. He said, I'm out of my league. My school hand garages and tools.
Nah, you're not out of your league, Roger. Thanks.
Yeah, you could be a spinning space monkey.
All right.
Carry on.
Are we getting into the strangeness going on in England right now, or are we going to move on?
I can if you wish. I mean, well, one Englishman's summary. Yeah, a lot of odd stuff, horrific things. Also, of attacks on freedom of speech. You'll have probably heard of Tommy Robinson. So releasing information that he's been suppressed to release and finally just releasing it. And that information is abhorrent. Because the powers that be are not on our side. And after, say, the most horrific attack on young children this week, people took to the streets and there was obvious anger. Now, that should be understood, and coupled with the amount of tolerance that our police system show to trans rights, Muslim rights, Free Palestine rights, and some of the mostly peaceful but Bernie protests that have gone off, and the soft handling, the white majority, I would say, it's not even the white, the working class majority that are subject to some of the more direct, impactful things of these issues, are taken to the streets, and they've had a thing, but a mild protest. There's been a little bit of a kerfuffle, but they were subject to much more heavy-handed measures. Demonstrated a level of two-tier policing. And on that, our new Prime Minister felt then the need to come out and attack those people, not deal with the issues at hand, that young children have been stabbed by people that have no right to be here, and address those concerns. Then proceeded to kind of attack the general public for airing their concerns, threaten them with, I think his words were, the full force of the law, invoke some kind of Chinese this thing saying, well, you won't even be allowed to travel on trains, which never goes down with your average working class British person. Sorry, if you try and exert your rights, you're going to be what? Stalin? Bring it on. So that's kind of set the scene this weekend and probably the next few weeks. People want to express their concern for the state of the country.
Because it's suddenly gone bonkers in terms of mass immigration, whereas typically, I'm glad you made the distinction that it isn't just white British people, because for the last, since I've lived in this country, the integration of blacks, Sikhs, Muslims, it's been very coherent and calm. It's not like in the States where there's overt racism against blacks by the police portrayed in the media quite often. To me, it doesn't seem like that. And I've got plenty of friends of various different races that would echo the same sentiment as a British Sikh, for example. In other words, when you say they're out on the streets, it's the British people that are out on the streets. Many of them are very different colours, of all different varieties, that will all be arm in arm, moaning about how generally is being in Britain currently, regardless of your colour.
It's more
colour's not really the issue here in the slightest.
That's what I want to make absolutely clear. The colour of anybody's skin in this particular issue here in this country is irrelevant, because there's almost not perfect harmony. I don't want to make it sound like it's all sweetness and roses. Obviously, that's never going to be the case. Typically speaking, there is a harmony in this country between blacks, Muslims, Asians, you name it. There isn't a dystopia. Even 10 years ago, maybe even longer, when we used to go down to London, it was far more multicultural. There was still a harmony. There wasn't riots. There wasn't different races fighting with each other. It wasn't ever like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I've not been in London recently, but I have seen recent reports of it definitely having a massive imbalance currently, which people are unhappy about. British people of all different races are unhappy about this, because there's a dystopic outlook to the country currently, which nobody likes. Why would you?
It's very interesting. Like I said, we don't know. You guys are my mates, but I don't really know who you are or where you live or so it's quite interesting to get that background. Not only the current situation, but just a little feel of what kind of crayon munchers I'm dealing with.
Well, what you've got at the moment is the same crayon munchers that were ripping up your streets, the Antifa mob. you've kind of got those guys, the free Palestine. They've been part of the ones their abhorrent behaviour, their anti-Semitic chants have been tolerated, and it's been witnessed by the British people how their abhorrent behaviour has been tolerated by the police. Like I say, they're mostly violent, but peaceful protest have been tolerated by the British police. We've had riots in the northern cities where the police have ran away from. And this is where I would want to make a distinction between Islamists, which is there's obviously they're trying to paint all of us as the far right. There's these woke ideologists, which include the pro-Palestine, gays for Palestine, woke ideology, Antifa crap. And then there's the Islamist group, which I'd make a huge distinction from your average Muslim, which is part of Britain. I have lots of Muslim friends who are British. Yeah, there's a very strong, and this is part of the influx of the immigrants. There's this strong separate community that in no way are integrating, a highly Islamist, make that distinction. And this is where we've seen today British people with no weapons being attacked with dogs and stuff for being a bit rowdy, and what's called the Muslim Defence League now attacking a guy with a hammer, bleeding to bits on the street, waving machetes, taking over areas, and the police not going anywhere near them. So we're at the point of, I think, huge civil disruption that's about to occur over the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Look at the cities now. There's live streams going of all the city centres that people are putting up. Because at the moment, what you've got is these disparate groups, the Antifa lot, the Muslim Brotherhood lot, and a few Brits, mostly supported by young youths, just scallies that have got nothing better to do. British people themselves aren't on the streets yet. This is only the beginning, is my interpretation.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was going to get that bad.
Tasty. As well, sorry, just to add on what Adam's just said. First part of it is it is extremists. So I grew up in a 99.9% Muslim Sikh area in Birmingham. I, amongst the blacks and Chinese, were in the 0.1% minority. So was it suddenly civil unrest and people running around with machetes when I grew up? Absolutely not. Was the crime? Yeah, like there will be in any group, anywhere, regardless of the colour of their skin, going to be criminals. So therefore, in that particular area, criminals typically were going to be Muslims because that was the majority of the people there. For the most part, it was perfectly civil, it was perfectly peaceful. It wasn't like if there was some major ordeal because there was mosques rather than churches on every street corner as there was when I was growing up. But because it's a seemingly associated with a Muslim extremist issue, you suddenly have this really dangerous perception from the public that it's this religion. You're like, what, this perfectly peaceful religion that's been living amongst us for the last 40 or 50 years without any issue whatsoever, that many of us are all friends with, suddenly their religion's being tarnished, and you feel bad on their behalf. You're like, it'd be the same if there was a load of extremist Christians that suddenly came in the country brandishing knives and swords. Like suddenly, as a normal Christian, you'd go, why does everybody suddenly start talking about these Christians being evil? Well, it's because those people who are doing the evil things are ipso facto Christians and waving that Christian banner. It just isn't you, is it? Right? Well, it's the same for Muslims. You're like, why have you suddenly got this horrible reputation because of a whole bucket load of extremists, essentially giving you and your peaceful nature, for the longest part that I've known in this country, a really bad name. Potential, actually dangerous, turning a country
peaceful
that's got tons of Muslims in it against the predominantly peaceful people who've been here forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Most of them are born here now.
No, and this is the trouble. And I want Brian to speak on this. No Muslims that function so, but I bet these 20,000 times the amount of Muslims in his country right now that he used to know 5 years ago aren't trying to integrate in Ireland, that aren't trying to... What I've just described is going to happen in Ireland in the next few weeks as well. Watch it. It's already happening elsewhere. It's going to get royal. Would you agree that these...
Well, the fact that someone is Muslim around, that's not really a problem. We're not. I don't know of any issues with that. What I will say is... Sorry.
Address that point, and then I want to address why it is important and why I wanted to make the distinction. I'll do it now. It is important. These people aren't fundamental Christians coming over. They're all Muslim, yeah, who are Islamist in their ideology. Not the Muslims that we grow up with, Mr. Patel on the corner shop, yeah. I serve the hundreds of customers that I look after. No, that are Muslim. No, it's not that. Because those people are part of our community, yet there's this influx of huge swathe of people. I think somebody said the equivalent to the size of Liverpool in the city of Liverpool in the last year. People filling up all of our travel lodges and hotels who are here. There is a standing army, people, on our shores, as demonstrated today. It's been a fear expressed for a long time. And there are problems. The trouble is the Islamist ideology, yeah, uses that scripture to justify their action. These people leave from their religious point of view, and there are plenty of Muslims who will disagree with them, don't get me wrong. These people are empowered with their religion, this Islamist ideology of the Quran, which is not, like I said, Mr. Patel that we all grew up with, and the Muslims we know on the street today. They're not here. There's just tens of thousands of fighting age young men put up in places all around the UK, and I would say Ireland as well, Brian.
Well, Ireland is a bit different. Sorry, someone else want to say something there?
No, go ahead, Brian.
Ireland's a little bit different because we only have one big city. And it's not even big in comparison to the cities in the UK, Europe, and certainly not America, which is Dublin. Now, I'm talking about the Republic, not up in the north. There's Belfast in the north. But so in Dublin, there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of tension because it's more because the people are being brought in to a country that just doesn't have the infrastructure. We could barely handle what we have, and we just don't have the infrastructure for extra people. And the problem is there's a lot of people who are they're trying to facilitate the people who are brought in, and money is being going towards them as opposed towards people or like people who are already living here. It's just, I don't like to get involved in it because you end up having opinions, building opinions based off of someone else's opinions or someone else's hate. It's pretty much I just deal with the person on the street and whatever it is that they want or don't want from me. But what I would say is it's harder for them groups that are coming in here to not integrate. Because in Ireland, you have to integrate. People are very much, they just walk up and start talking to you on the street. And if you decide that you're not talking to them, they're going to have an issue about it. You know, people are going to have an issue about it. In the UK, you can walk around all day and not talk to anyone. And you won't have to address anything. That's what was my experience in the UK. That in the UK, there's so many people, so many millions of people in this one small place that people, and there's so many big cities that it is possible for large groups of people to come into the UK from other parts of the world and to create enclaves that they can't do in Ireland, because Ireland is basically a country full of big towns and small towns and villages. So you can't do it. But what's actually happening here is you have people who are being brought into Ireland, being placed in places that are just small villages. And they're like these people could be from somewhere in the Middle East or the Congo or something. They're completely out. They're placed in some place in the middle of nowhere in Ireland, and they don't know how to interact with the locals. The locals don't know how to interact with them. The whole situation is a mess, you know. And we've had our fair share of stuff go on here as well, but I don't think the tensions are as bad here, I could be wrong, as they are in the UK. I don't think they are. I think the UK is at a boiling point myself.
Damn.
Just
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
something's
like it.
brooding, and the point is that this is subversive. It's an attack on their way of life, your way of life. Should it be attacked? And see, these are the meta of all these protesters all around because they don't have any authority to appeal to. Everybody's very confused right now.
Well, thanks for the update, because I was totally unaware of what was happening. You guys don't bring it up, right? We never get into this.
Very reserved. Same applies to the police. You could hear hints of Adam describing it when he said they ran away. Right. Often in Britain, if there's things like protests going on, that will often result in people just watching, the bystander effect, if you will. Yeah. Whereas, as Brian said, in Ireland, people will have a little nose. They're more hospitable by the same token. You know, they'll be offered a cup of tea. It's not something that happens here. As Brian was saying, he's right. Can just slip under the radar.
Yeah, well, the difference is this. In the UK, especially in somewhere like, especially London and some of the big cities like Manchester and that, but London more so, you can live next door to someone for 20 years and not know who they are. Never say hello to them, and they're living right next door to you. Whereas that does happen a bit in Dublin, in the more the city centre of Dublin. But in general, in Ireland, you can't live next door to someone and not interact with them. It's not that you have to be calling into them and hanging out with them or anything like that. But you need to have a bit of interaction has to happen. If you know what I mean. It's just unnatural for interaction not to happen. You know, for some conversation not to happen or something. Because everyone is kind of checking everyone out, if you know what I mean. That kind of thing.
You used a few terminologies that typically they're not worth clarifying, but in this instance I'm going to anyway, right? So the term UK was just used. So what we're talking about collectively is the British Isles, right? Which is, if you will, England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, with a few little islands dotted here and there. The two main bodies of land are Ireland, which is split into two, which is Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the UK, although it's on a separate bit of land, which is to say the UK is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So Great Britain is England, Scotland and Wales. That's one body. That's Great Britain. And then Ireland is the other. Slightly complicated because that's the British own a part of Ireland, which is what has caused many, many conflicts over the years.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Let's not get into that now, are we?
No.
Here we go.
Anyway, matter of fact, right, when we talk about the UK, we're talking about Great Britain and Northern Ireland. When we're talking about the British Isles, it's all of them. When we're talking about England, it's just the bit at the bottom of Great Britain. Great Britain is Wales, England, and Scotland. There you go.
Super mustache.
All right, Roger Ledwell sent. Oh man, Roger, come on now. Grew up in he grew up in a small town that was good enough for him. So
Thanks,
that was
Roger.
Good enough for me.
Small town where? In the United Kingdom? We can move on.
We'll never know.
Yep, we'll never know. That's very interesting, folks. I was totally unaware, like I said before, of what's happening with you guys. Just out of touch with the day-to-day operations over there. But Adam, without doxing you, you're going to leave us for a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah, thank God. I'm getting out of the UK.
You going to be able to get back?
Well, I want to come back. Question.
Do I want to come back, number one?
Yeah, no, I'm disappearing for a couple of weeks, but you know.
Stay in Italy.
Yeah. What, Neil?
What do you want, Neil?
I said, Adam, stay in Italy. It's safer.
Well, who knows, mate? Who knows, eh?
Super
No, I'm
Booger.
going to disappear. Oh, yeah.
I anticipated that one. Sorry.
Phoenix Rising 86 and Rebel News did a piece of the problem 11 days ago if you want to look at their camp.
Oh, thanks a lot, Phoenix Rising. Appreciate it.
I know how you feel, Adam, because when I was a rep and I'd be driving all over Europe, there was lots of things about Europe generally that I liked. Were nicer, more efficient, better tasting, things like that. I was always glad to come home and always appreciated how quirky and interesting and historic and fantastical our country is. It was always a pleasure to come home. At the moment, there's, that feeling is being threatened, and it's a weird sensation, isn't it? Like you say, you go away and you think, well, will I want to come back? Obviously you will, but I'm just saying that feeling of, no, it will be good to get back to Blighty and get a good, strong cup of tea in me. Talk to the neighbours or whatever it is that you do in your local town.
Superchat.
Super Mullet. No, this takes precedence over your story.
Yeah, Roger Lidwell sent Lowell NC if you really have to know. Sorry, Kim. You're fine. You're fine, Roger. I just, I have to read these, and when you make grammatical errors, I'm like, oh, let me figure that one out.
Yeah, North Carolina. Okay, pretty good. Now we know where you're from. We'll get into discussions about North Carolina and their sovereignty on some other day, Roger. So, sorry, Nathan, you didn't finish up. Go ahead, finish up.
I did. I got the last word in just in time before the super chat.
Okay. So we hope Adam makes it back to where he lived. What did you call him the other day? And he got a little uppity. You did it on purpose too. You called him Knots.
I named his football team Notts Forest.
That's
he can't spell.
Say again.
It's because he can't spell. So
that's what they used to say on the pools. They used to read out the score draws
and piss at every Nottingham Forest fan off. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what they used to say when they used to read the pools, isn't it? They used to say Notts Forest on the TV.
NTTM is what it should be abbreviated to. If you feel the need to abbreviate, no such team. The final point of irritation.
This has been. Listen to me. You guys gotta stop over talking to each other. Well, for the last minute or so, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'll get my sentence out.
There you go again.
Won't let me say it. That's why. Right. On national TV weekly, it would read out the football scores on a Saturday. Something we used to have called the pools, which was like a little lottery based on the scores of the football matches. And for some of them, they would abbreviate the names of the teams. For Nottingham Forest, they would abbreviate it to Notts Forest and read that out to the entire nation.
And piss us off.
Why?
Because there's no such team. So there's two teams that are either side of the River Trent. Nottingham Forest, Nottingham, yeah, no S. And
Notts County.
Nottinghamshire County. So it's a bit like going the LA Jets. Or it's a complete misnomer and done on purpose. And so, yeah, there might have been a point where it's become Mandela effect in people's minds that it was there all the time, but it's not. People say it all the time, and then Forest fans feel the need to have to correct it.
But what's so bad about Notts Forest?
Because it's not
Nottingham and Nottinghamshire abbreviated. That's it. So Nottinghamshire is abbreviated to Notts. Notts County is a different team. Then you've got Nottingham.
That explained it. Thanks.
Exactly. There shouldn't be an issue.
Into the break sent one must look to see, or one must only look to see. Sorry, Into the break.
What did he bust open a friggin' fortune cookie? Thanks. End of the break. Appreciate
Kind
it.
of sounds like that.
Just to round out so I don't just get annoyed, I'll acknowledge what he's saying. So we have two city teams in Birmingham. One is called Birmingham City, the other is called Aston Villa. If you were to refer to one of them as Birmingham Villa, would obviously piss one or other of them off, right? That's basically the principle, isn't it, Adam?
Oh,
yeah. I'm a big fan of Aston City.
Yeah, oh, you saying it, that's much better. Aston City. Oh, that made my skin crawl.
This is crazy. I thought it was something with the knots, but it's not that. It's mixing and matching, right?
Keep saying it. Knots. That's right, yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm not playing
Forest.
Too funny.
That's the easiest way. Just Forest.
Anyway.
Adam, what about if they start calling it Nottinghamshire Forest?
Nonsensical.
Isn't that where Big John came from in Robin Hood, Nottingham?
What if they start calling the Republic that southern bit of Northern Ireland?
Yes, that's Sherwood.
Oh, Sherwood. Yeah, we're
That'd
talking
be
about.
problematic. I'm going to be honest.
We're talking about two different things. I'm sorry to introduce that. Adam just blew me off, and yeah, Sherwood for. Where's Sherwood Forest? Is it in Notts?
No.
Nottingham.
No, it's in Notts. It's in Nottinghamshire. So I'm part of the old. I sit in part of the old Sherwood Forest. It extends up, right up. What's left of Sherwood Forest is about 10 miles north of me.
Yeah. Ah. Everyone lives somewhere famous. So Adam lives near Robin Hood's land. I live near Shakespeare's land, if you will. My county is called Shakespeare's County, and his is called Robin Hood's County.
Interesting.
So I'm about 2 miles from Nottingham Castle.
Oh, that's awesome. Why don't you take some pictures and send them to us so we could we don't know what your natural habitat is. There's no context to you.
We'll drink tea and live in castles. That's bloody obvious by now.
Yeah, fair enough. What do they do in Ireland? What do they live in Ireland? Like old shacks and stuff? Do you have any universities in Ireland?
Yeah, there's a few universities in Ireland, but they're as poisonous as the ones in the US these days. They're poisoned via the US, to be honest with you. They just take their cues off the US and just do whatever they're told. So the amount of poison that's in the universities in the US is the same poison that we have over here. And there wasn't even a time difference. It's just as they were being poisoned, our ones were being poisoned. So to be honest with you, I wouldn't think much of them.
So poison is a metaphor for what?
For the rubbish that they're teaching people in these universities. I mean, someone can spend several years in a university in the US or Ireland and come out of it knowing nothing. Do you know what I mean? What's the point of them? You know, they have some rubbish PhD or some degrees in a heap of nothing.
Sports sciences.
No practical.
Sports sciences.
What?
Sports sciences. They come out with a degree in sports sciences.
Well, I don't know. That has to have some relevance in reality, practical relevance. I'm talking about something that's sport. That's going to be relevant. You'll have some practical use to that. Do you know what I mean? But what are you going to get for there's something, like, I mean, let's be honest.
Brian, you mean gender studies?
Well, that's the physics.
Uh-oh.
Superchat.
Super Irish.
Oh.
Roger Ledwell sent, my favorite color is red and I prefer coffee to tea. Long bike rides.
Or do you spell colour wrong? Is it you in it?
This is the longest we've not talked about Flat Earth. It's been a solid hour and a half since the show began.
It's good. I wanted to relax. Sensual Goat said that he lives in Darwin's County. Where the heck is... Where is that in England? Low down scoundrel.
Don't know. Sorry.
Don't know.
Could look at it. Sorry, don't know.
All right, fair enough.
Well, Darwin's in Australia, isn't it?
I think there's something in Australia like that, but he wasn't Australian.
Adam's just being ignorant.
Yeah.
I can't claim it myself because it's not my county. But in the county over from me, about 20 minutes away from me, if I take a ferry, is the birthplace of Joe Kennedy.
Huh. Interesting.
Not exactly Shakespeare.
Not exactly.
I'll be more intellectual, Brian. Shropshire, then.
What's Shropshire?
Shrewsbury. It's probably the place you might know in the county of Shropshire. That's where Darwin.
My folks used to live in there. So in England, that's got the area with the lowest light pollution. That's when I talk about sitting in a hot tub and looking at the stars. I was in my folks had a farm in Shropshire.
Interesting.
QE, do you
What?
know of a guy in American history, called Thomas Francis Meagher?
Say it again.
Do you know of a guy in American history called Thomas Francis Meagher?
I didn't catch the last name. Mar?
You'd probably pronounce it Meagher.
How do you spell it?
Meagher. Or you can't spell it Maher.
I don't know that, Brian, but history wasn't one of my strong suits. Please continue.
Maher.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering. Yeah, Meagher. Yeah, I know it's okay. Just if you knew the name, it would have some relevance. Because you don't, there's absolutely no point in me filling you in on information.
Well, can I give you a little task to perform, QE?
Yes.
I've released a 60-second video that I'm hoping you'll play. Which I've just stuck in BALLBUSTERS.
BALLBUSTERS in Discord?
Oh, BALLBUSTERS in Skype.
Okay. Yep.
Anyway, while you're having to dig out, right, I'll explain why I want it to be played. I just so happened to know that there was someone in recent flat Earth debates that had particularly gone to the effort of telling us how, of course, Earth's going to be measured flat. Because it's a really big ball, and justifying how flat it would need to be measured them to move on to infer sphericity. I had that example in my back pocket, but then yesterday we went to Politics Discord server. There was 3 in quick succession.
How else would they measure
Took them all
measure it
and sort of compiled them into one video, along with the actual bulk of, I think it was 1 or 2 of them, in the body of the video. In the intro to the video, just took various sections of all of them and bunged them together next to each other, just in a fashion that shows all of these different globe believers telling us how flat they've got to justify it being. Because we've been saying over the last 7 or 8 months, listen up, Earth's measured flat, they need it to be measured flat too, and you'll have heard them giving you examples of justifying how, well, yeah, this small area is flat, or yeah, we'll measure it flat, but only because it's a really big ball, and things like that. Now that we're overtly pointing that out to the audience, you'll be more acutely aware if you're the Weasley way that you'll hear these concessions, because it's all well and good me just saying you'll have your opponent tell you how they measure Earth flat. They will, but they won't explicitly say it. They'll say covertly, if that's the right word. Anyway, there's going to be, hopefully, if I've bought enough time for QE to cue that up, he'll let me know, hopefully verbally. If not, I'll keep waffling on about me.
No, I got it.
This
I got it.
Good.
Flat, correct?
Correct. Of course, it's going to be flat. It's going to be flat enough for you to utilize any construction built within that radius.
That's what a big globe predicts, especially because you're not a giant person.
That's the point of perception where you are. Of course, it's going to be flat. You have to work with some sort of solidification.
This angle acquisition, because Earth's so big that it's okay to measure Earth flat. Isn't that right, Dahl?
How else would they measure it?
You can do that because if the curvature
is insignificant compared to your little measurement device, then sure, you can do it.
Earth is supposed to look pretty.
I can't stop! I can't stop!
I told you to use the litter box before we left. All right, you two. Who ate the dish soap?
Frank, you play any bird mitten? I call this one the shuttlecock.
So I said, Henrietta, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
You look good, Randall, but at Nationals...
What the hell was that?
Well, I can only assume you played the right video because we couldn't hear it in Discord, but hopefully you were playing Globeheads measuring Earth flat.
Yeah, we were. Yep, you heard it. That was it.
Well, we didn't, but I know what it was. I made it.
Something went wrong there. I listened to that video earlier. There was something not right there. None of that stuff came in at the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what
that was strange. Okay, what was your point there?
I'd already made it in the preamble. I'll make it again after the fact, even though, like I say, I can only imagine what it sounded like because we didn't get to hear it in Discord, but that's fine. If the audience got it, that's all that matters. It's just them confessing. Of course we're going to measure Earth flat. Yeah, Earth's going to be flat, but that's only because it's a really big ball. Yeah, we can get the angle off flat Earth, but that's only because the tool that's measuring that area can consider that area to be measured flat. These are just concessions of the ballers. That was it. The point was obvious. I don't mind reiterating it. They measure Earth flat too. They need a flat Earth, and when it comes to them taking measurements, they'll tell you that they're measuring Earth flat with a justification of how it's only because it's a really big ball that we can measure it flat. Earth, that is.
This is that mitigation is something early on you consider, and it may be applicable to hanging wallpaper, building a house, and what it's not applicable to is celestial navigation. Yeah? That's the reality, that they cannot deal with celestial navigation because it is all flat. Yeah, and they struggle. Like I say, they don't deny it's flat. They just pretend you could still have a ball because the amount of curvature when I'm hanging my next sheet of wallpaper next to my plumb line is so different, so infinitesimally small in their little world. They don't have to deal with it. It's denial. And that's why celestial navigation is so powerful, because the distances involved and the implication of the flat using a right angle triangle is devastating. Although that's why I think they're going to surveying all the time at the moment, because it's you can excuse it if you see my point. I say with the wallpaper and
Oh, but in their excuse, they still have to justify using and utilizing Earth as a horizontal plane of reference when they're building on it. You're saying it is easier to mitigate by saying, well, we're only dealing with a small area, therefore I can measure Earth flat and feel justified in saying because it's a really big ball. They're still measuring Earth flat in both circumstances. You are absolutely correct, though. The reason I really like celestial navigation as an argument is because when you get to the vast distances of, navigation star 15 degrees above the horizon, you're talking about absolutely enormous areas of equal elevation that are going to overlap with other absolutely enormous, potentially, areas of equal elevation. And they can only work, as you just detailed, and just reiterating, with the 90 to your position below that star. All three of them on a huge flat plane that can only work that way. There's no getting away from it. So much so, in the debate yesterday, Adam, one of the guys couldn't even bear to repeat one of the citations, the Sustainable by Design citation. I said he inserted an extra little bit about the horizon in the citation, and I'm like, it didn't have that in the citation. I want you to repeat it verbatim. I repeated it to him to invite him to repeat it. He said, no, I've got it. I was like, no, you clearly haven't. You repeated it incorrectly. I want you to repeat it correctly. I'll give it you again. And he says, no, I'd rather go. I'm like, what? He said, I'll run. I thought he was speaking in a different language, but he said, I'll run. I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got two choices, repeat it or run. And he was like, I'd rather run. And he did. Rather than the repeat citation that said specifically the horizontal plane the observer is standing on, rather than repeating it, he'd rather run. And that happened 3 times, 3 different people. When it got to that point, he spent 10, 15 attempts trying to obfuscate, change the subject, get it onto the moon, get it onto perspective, get it onto anything, the elevation angle. Oh, you've been going on and on about the elevation angle. You don't want to address anything else. You're like, no, I don't want to address anything else.
Exactly.
That's right. Let's get you to address it. Every single one of them would rather leave than admit the implications of celestial navigation. It was beautiful.
Did most of those occur in the pre-show?
Pre and after
Yes.
show, yeah. In the pre and after show, the live show was one of the most boring shows ever.
You got to go.
Yeah, but they don't want to commit to.
You got to go in there on different days. You got to have surprise shows, dude.
That's what I did. My wife went to see both of my kids doing a performance that they've been learning how to do all week at drama class. She was out an hour early, and I'm like, the amount of times AJ said, "Oh, if only you could be here an hour earlier." It's all the Aussie fundies telling you how Earth is a ball. I thought I'll just surreptitiously slip in without saying hello an hour early, and I did. By the end of the hour, I'm like, right, I know exactly how these guys operate. I know their MO. I've seen how they talk to the other people. They can't wait till they get a load of me, and they did.
Were they mainly Aussies that were in there?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, some of them were, some of them weren't.
You need to get with the politics mods and just go in different days. I know you went in an hour earlier, but it's not a different day. Try to get with them and find out when most of the crayon munchers are in there, and then go in, and schedule that day, and then do it a different week. Or is that too hard?
It's not that. I've got an ulterior motive. So, pattern of behaviour in the politics Discord server is 100% identical to the pattern that has taken place in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. With the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, which I am absolutely a part of and have all the moderator status I would need to run my show exactly how I want to run it, I get accused of running the show with the mute button.
Oh, yeah.
Don't I?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I have absolutely zero mod control. I'm 100% a guest, the same as everybody else in the politics Discord server. I have no control over it. I've not built it. I don't know the mods particularly well. Some of them, was that super chat?
No.
Oh.
No, that's me saying you got no control, but you say, mute him now.
Yeah, and then I have to disclaim after the fact, like, mute him, get out, leave. And then I have to snigger and go, I actually have absolutely no control here. Nobody's going to do what I tell them. It's not my server.
Everybody else in the server is entitled to make that cry for help as well. Mute him. Yeah, everybody else can say it. That there's no more power given to you saying that. That's the bonus of that place. Is a decent mods, yeah, deal with it how they see fit. So it takes away the woke victimhood, which is only decide not.
You only win because you mute us. That's the only reason you take the victory, because you can mute us and control the conversation. Well, in there, I'm scheduled, and the pattern has elapsed exactly how it has, but without them being able to say, well, we'll boycott you. What, boycott a server I'm not a mod for? That's eroded that excuse, hasn't it? Well, what's the pattern? It'll get smashed and then never return.
It's a feeble, knuckle-headed deflection. It's so weak, right? I just snicker to myself, going, oh, you mute. Well, when you act like a horse's ass, you're going to get muted. Or overtalk, right? Or don't answer the question, you're going to get muted. We're not going to waste our time. I mean, anyone that could fog a mirror knows that. And they're still saying, but he's got the mute button. They still do that over in Flat Earth Discord, too. I had two people tell me it yesterday. I said, just give me a break, you Nancy. How's your dress flowing?
Adam summarised it perfectly. It takes away the woke victim excuse. That was the perfect summary, Adam. Exactly.
Woke victim.
Well, the thing about it is that unless the mute button was employed up to a point, and a lot of the time Nathan just inferred that it was being employed. He wasn't actually employing it. Now and again he had to. The point is that without that implication, there'd just be no progress in any direction that would be audible to an audience. Because it would just be outright outright deception, tactics, and nonsense, as opposed to, for the majority of the time, as opposed to any kind of actual, honest discourse.
Sure.
Bringing progress,
Sure, everyone knows.
Possible without it.
Everyone knows that. Anyone that can fog a mirror knows that. I mean, who are they appealing to? Their fellow idiot baltards that have diarrhea of the mouth?
Character assassination. It's
so superficial. It's not. Like I said, anyone that can fog a mirror on either side knows the score. It's so weak and so feeble. It's pathetic. And it just shows, you know what it shows? Do 7 offsuit.
Yeah, weak hand.
Yep.
Absolutely correct.
Yep. Whenever they do it, all in.
The thing is, though, it as frustrating as it is, and as Nathan alluded to, with the 24/7, where there is this independent mod, where that victimhood is taken away, you do get, over that hour, 2 hours of frustration, it demonstrated to anybody that's going to sit and listen to it. You don't come out of that thinking, well, maybe the baller had a good point. He's really supported his argument there. Yeah? What you demonstrated is that they've got nothing.
Yeah.
Got nothing other than obfuscation and ad hom.
Yep. Yep. That's all they've had since 2015. It's the same old story. Well,
just to use yesterday. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to use yesterday's after show as an example. The couple of guys that were in talking about the movement of Polaris, that argument that was going on. That was like reasonably. Was reasonably good. I mean, I overtalked a bit myself. I'm not going to say I didn't. It was more, and rather than frustration, it was more to do with just just over enthusiastic. Where was I going to go with this? Yeah, that was reasonably good. But what I will say, this is what I was going to go, is when I put it to them, where the problems lied with their claim of you only make corrections for Polaris sometimes, because when Polaris was left or right of the claimed North Celestial pole, right, that you don't need to make corrections for it, that logically and geometrically made no sense, right? Rather than addressing that, they kind of just reiterated the same thing again. It's like, no, you're not listening to me. And that's the problem. I think that it's like on our opposition side, there's a lot of reiterating of the same thing. It says here in this book, in this chapter, it says this, and this is what I'm going to say. And then you say something that shows a contradiction in that, and they just kind of try to repeat the same thing. It's like, no, you have to listen to what other people are saying. Like, if someone points out a contradiction to you, you have to...
To interrupt, yes, you're absolutely correct. They've got a surface regurgitation. While you were having that discussion, I found where it came from on Twitter, that exact screenshot. So when they gave us that little cutout, and they're like, "Where's the rest of the almanac?" Well, there's a series of 3 of them on an argument that's been put forward on Twitter that I found. I'm like, okay, based on his lack of a rebuttal when you put that to him, this is obviously a regurgitation. Like I'd accuse the other guy just regurgitating off Twitter some comment that said tangent. This is no different. He's seen the argument packaged up by someone else. He doesn't have a good in-depth understanding of why it's been trimmed out in the way he has when he gave us that little snippet. He doesn't know how to respond to you in that regard when you're breaking down what he's putting to you. But he does understand the claim because he's read it packaged up for him. He just can't work outside of that claim.
Gotcha.
Once I found it, I'm like, oh, okay, now I know why they're arguing with us about this, because at a base level in this claim, it says it's a problem for flat earthers.
Oh, Kiwi talking. Superchat.
Super mustache, super booger. That is so cute.
I know. Roger Ledwell sent, I like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain.
Oh, you did that well. Thanks, Roger.
Just one thing, Flatsy. That was Nathan. So Bugger gets it. Make sure next time he smokes someone properly like he did. I love that. The right one.
Yeah, the QE's talking. So what? Super chat. Love
it. Stop QE talking.
I can't do it, Mama. QE's talking.
Listen, I completely interrupted Brian.
Yeah, but he was right. I mean, everyone knows that too. You know, because they can't go outside the boundaries of their surface puke regurgitation. So everyone knows it when they repeat it. Yeah, duh. You don't know what you're talking about outside it. And it's not even outside it. It's connected, by the lips to it, right?
Well, yeah. Let me know what the problem was yesterday. The guys that were talking is Embo and another guy. I can't remember the other lad's name, but I've talked to him in the past. They were referring to something, right, as if it was gospel, but they had never given it any thought.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was pointing out a contradiction with it, a problem with it geometrically, they didn't know how to respond to it. It's like because they never think outside of what they're just told is the truth. And that seems to be a large problem we have in this arena with our opposition. Because if they gave it a little bit of geometric thought, they realise that it makes no sense that you'd have to correct sometimes and not other times. That makes absolutely no sense.
The biggest tell for that is when they rinse and repeat.
Yep.
They tell you their position, and in their mind, it's not an argumentation stance. It's a fait accompli. It's the end of the argument. Here's the argument packaged up with the conclusion. I put it to you, and you fall on your sword and die in front of me, and I get praised as the amazing person that debunked flat Earth. Put it to you. You have to yield. They put it to you, and you go, well, what about this, that, and the other? They go, what? Something to comprehend in response. 16 times.
Yep. Like the tangent guy. Yeah,
has it got a tangent mirror? Don't know what that means. You'd need a tangent. Yeah, we're measuring stuff at sea. Is there a tangent mirror on the sextant? I don't know what would be on a sextant. I know we need a tangent. 16 times later. You blarted this word out. You just spewed it out into a discussion.
Yep.
White knighting for someone else who's getting pummeled. Do you think you've got... Because in their mind, right, like when I've described it, is they'll put it to their opponent, me, and I'll fall on my sword and everyone will praise them. When one of their compadre, rather, one on their own side's getting a proper pasting, they feel that needs to be blarted out. Well, I've got the solution that would make everyone praise me in defeating flat Earth, so I'll blart that out as this person's getting a proper hammering. I was like, a guy, tangent, just needs to blart it out and the win will be had.
No. They think they've got a gotcha, don't they? This is the trouble. They come running in. I've kind of done the same because Nathan kind of put this point to me. QE said, "Where were you last night?" I said, "I'm at the football on," and this topic comes up. So, Brian, will you just explain to me what they were explaining as their gotcha? Because that's what they come running in with. We've got you by the balls. We're going to present this one tiny, minute fact. And I just want to hear what it is, if you get me.
Yeah. Well, I basically they were claiming that Polaris is half a degree off of what would be called the North Celestial Pole. So basically, Polaris is not the North Celestial Pole itself. It's not the pole star, right? Or it's only near the. At that point, it's only called the near pole star, and that its GP is not the geographic North Pole. This was their claim. And they were saying that Polaris is half a degree off of that celestial pole, and that it rotates around that celestial pole one rotation once every celestial or every sidereal day, right? And they were saying that they had corrections from the almanac. Basically, what is the corrections in the almanac for this? And I suspected there was, because it's more globe-based. Basically, if you're looking at Polaris and it is, let's say, from your point of view, above the North Celestial Pole or below the North Celestial Pole, this is within their claim now. I'm not claiming this is the case, that you have to make corrections for it when it's above or below. But you don't need to make a correction for it if it's to the left or the right, right? So that means that you only need to make corrections for this thing sometimes. And I pointed out, no, that's impossible geometrically, because the distance between you and the GP of what would be the North Celestial Pole and something that's to a half a degree to the left or right of it is going to be a different length of line. So the distance between you and the GP of the North Celestial Pole and the distance between you and something that's half a degree to the left or right of it, they're going to be two different length lines. So our point was, how are you going to know your latitude if you don't? If you're saying that Polaris is doing this, then there'd be no point when you wouldn't have to correct for Polaris when you're looking for your latitude. And they were saying, no, you only correct when it's when it appears above or below the North Celestial Pole. And I was pointing out, no, you would have to correct for it at all times. There's no times you wouldn't have to correct for it geometrically under those conditions, because the line that you're making is slightly longer than the line that's going to the North Celestial Pole. So GP of the North Celestial Pole. So how are you going to get your correct latitude when it's to the left or right, but not when it's, from your perspective, above or below it? And this is all coming from their belief that Polaris is doing this. Yes, they weren't able to show a video of Polaris actually making a circle around. That was my point as well. They couldn't show a video of Polaris making an actual circle around this claimed North Celestial Pole. The videos that I did see were a little bit tricky, and they didn't show this. They showed a movement, an apparent movement of Polaris, but even at that, I'm not sure if the parts that showed the movement were like something like stellarium or not, because I've had that issue with them in the past. So basically, they were trying to show that Polaris was doing this, but then claiming that you only need to correct for it sometimes. You would have to geometrically correct for it at all times. You'd have to know its position at all times in relation to you. You'd always have to correct for it if it's making a circle around a central point, if it's half a degree off it. Because otherwise, how are you going to have your correct latitude sometimes under those conditions and not other times? So that was the basic argument. If I don't know if you understood I think you do. You do understand what I'm saying there. Let me know if you.
That was a lot. What they're basically saying is the celestial body we know as Polaris or the pole star isn't pole star. Pole star moves around the position that the pole star would be in if it was the pole star. It isn't. The pole star moves around that pole. That's their claim.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question, Adam. In the 3 months of total darkness up north of 60 degrees or whatever it is, right, during the northern winter, shouldn't there be a video someone could get of Polaris making an exact circle throughout a 24-hour period? How come that video, I've never seen it? In 10 years, I've never seen that.
This is something I've pondered for a while, because if you've got a telescope, when you're setting your equatorial mount, you align it to the pole star. Actually, there's a slight offset.
That's correct.
Embedded within the lens to make it easier for you. And to my understanding, this is a flat Earth proof, and it's a proof that the way we view heavenly bodies is perspective, and things compress at a distance. So this thing is actually dependent on latitude. So the amount of adjustment depends on your latitude, demonstrating it's not just applied curvature. Adjustment changes based on how far away you are, i.e. perspective. Now, in their world, there is no how far away you are. It's just the star field, which is all infinitely far away, unless, of course, the star field is close. And there are, even within this, applied rates of perspective, the thing that we're actually measuring in celestial navigation. There's As a celestial navigation, you don't make an adjustment this on a certainly on a daily basis at this point. The rotation of Polaris isn't affecting like that. Even if you get the movement, the only adjustment is, again, as I understand, is on a yearly basis, and a very minute one on that, based on the assumption of precession, which would mean this is why you don't have to realign your telescope, align your equatorial mount. It's not moving. It's slightly out of line, light point you're seeing with the exact point of rotation for your telescope, your EQ mount to align with. That's what's being demonstrated there to me. But being able to do that and say it's this much out, and it has to be this much out based on your latitude, i.e. what we're aligning with is affected by perspective, and that you don't have to buy a new mirror every year or have an hourly lens based on the time of the day. That tells you a lot, because the EQ mount stays in alignment based on that. The only adjustment I've seen and that you have to mitigate for is precession, which is every 24,000 years or something. So don't worry. It seems stable to me.
Regardless of the precession, you've got an almanac. So,
yes. Okay.
Can I?
That's the adjustment in the almanac precession. That's all the almanac mitigates for.
Exactly.
So in 10,000 years, it'll be in a very, instead of being like at 9 o'clock, it might be 11, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, something like that. Do you know what I mean? In relation to Polaris. Now that's the claim. As I say, the adjustment doesn't substantiate that. It just says the adjustment in terms of where you are, in terms of your distance from Polaris, that just suggests a perversion due to perspective, because it's different depending on your latitude.
But Adam, you know what they do with an EQ mount? If you look at it, what they do, the polar aligned EQ mount, there's a circle with a little crosshairs in between it, and they'll try and place Polaris on that circle. That's what they'll try and do. So Polaris will be on that circle, and the crosshairs will be half a degree away from that circle. And once you do that, it's within their pre-assumption that the Earth is a globe and it's wobbling slightly. It's not a little wobble they talk about. And that's what they're talking about with the North Celestial Pole, that it's wobbling. The Polaris is stationary, but the globe is wobbling. So the EQ mount is on a surface that's wobbling slightly, and this is the pre-assumption, and that the Polaris will make a circle around that, will follow that circle around basically once every sidereal day, right? But this is all globe pre-assumption. All of it is globe pre-assumption, and if you look at declination, all that, unfortunately, sorry.
That's the differentiation I'm making. In terms of celestial navigation, the only precession it's accounting for is the wobble of the so-called ball Earth, as it would be described in the heliocentric model, which is the movement of the stars over 24 plus the 25,000 years, whatever the exact numbers, I don't know. Yeah, but that's the rotation of the zodiac in the sky.
That's not what I'm talking about.
No, but that's the only thing that the almanacs will attribute to a repositioning of Polaris. Other than that, no, it doesn't move. Yeah, you don't change it. And there's no need to worry about what it was last year. Yeah, it's only need to worry about if you took your position of Polaris from an almanac 50 years ago, you might be a degree or so out. That's the point it's made. But it's 25,000 years. 360 degrees, that precession. So don't worry about it. I was like, even that, I knew.
Yeah, but the precession is not that Polaris is moving around. The precession is everything that's around Polaris is changing.
Yeah, the whole star field, everything's still in relation to Polaris. Yeah.
But the reason, but see, the pre-assumption is that the globes, the north. See, it also goes back to the Sigma Octantis south, right? Because there's a pre-assumption by them that let's say if you bring a straight line, an axis through the globe, that globe, right, is always wobbling slightly. So that axis is never pointing towards Polaris, is always off by half a degree. So rather than Polaris making a circle around the North Celestial Pole, the globe is wobbling around, given the appearance. Right. But
that's my point. That
I got to this. Just leave me finish, because this is where I got to the last time you stopped me. Right. Where is the proof that Polaris is doing this? Because I can't find any solid evidence that it's happening.
The lens. The fact that
there isn't any proof that Polaris is moving.
It's not.
You have cultures that talk about Polaris 5,000 years ago. The Inuits talk about Polaris and Ursa Minor and stuff.
But we're talking about a small movement daily, a small daily movement, a small daily circle.
There's no star trails of that either. I watched like 30 different videos yesterday after the topic got brought up. I couldn't find any where Polaris is making a circle. It makes like a little, almost like think about like the emoji smiley face, it makes a little dip, but it doesn't happen at the same speed as all the other stars around it. It all happens at once, and then usually the video ends.
Yeah, what I noticed about the videos. Well, what I did notice about the videos I watched 2 or 3 of them. 2 of them, I think, after the one that was presented to us. And to get to the point of Polaris about to move or about to do something, it's like there's a little differentiation of the light or something. And suddenly there's a jump cut. There's like a cut in the video, and they're showing this streak, like a smiley face, like a smile, right? This little smile. But why is there a jump? Why do we have this video of Polaris not doing anything, and suddenly this little jump and Polaris making this little, like a little arc? You know what I mean? It makes no, like, it screams, screams problems to me. And as I said, if Polaris was doing this, somebody would have a video from the northern winter when they have 24-hour darkness, all for 3 months. They'd have a video of Polaris making a circle, a 24-hour time lapse. I have yet to see that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've yet to see it.
That's what I was looking for. Like, I was figuring somebody in Norway or Latvia or somewhere would have a time lapse of Polaris making a full, but all you ever see is that little, it makes like a little dip, and it's not relative to everything else in the sky. Like, everything else is already making their trails, and Polaris is being stationary. Then all of a sudden, it is almost like literally a cut. So you saw the same, you probably watched the same videos I saw. There's not that many of them either. Like, you would think there would be loads of trail videos, and there's not. That's another thing that kind of like, I'm like, well, where are they? Like, there should be thousands of them. And I saw maybe like 6 or 7 good ones, but they don't show anything on them. And then there's a couple where Polaris doesn't even move. And then there's a few where it makes like the little smiley face, but that doesn't like it.
And as I said,
it does almost look like the video is cut. Yeah, because it's like all of a sudden Polaris is a dot, and then all of a sudden Polaris grew 3 times the size. Like, it's not even that big of a movement.
No, I agree, because and the reason I have an issue with it, without outright calling it false, because in case I could be wrong, but the reason I have an issue with it is that I've had Stellarium presented to me in the past as if it's reality, and only for I had the wisdom to see what it was that was being presented to me, and then proving that it was Stellarium, and the people that presented it to me admitted it was Stellarium, and then tried to pretend they weren't trying to present it as reality, something to do with the moon. And that's the problem. People will have pre-assumptions. Sometimes it's deception, sometimes it's pre-assumption, and they'll add in something like Stellarium into their video without telling you anything about it. And you have to actually ask them, did you do that? And they go, well, yeah, because it does do that, but it only does it in Stellarium. We're not doing it in reality. Why did they need this jump cut to this movement that we don't? Why didn't you just keep your video playing and show us this time lapse of the movement? Why did you need to cut the video? It's things like that. Just it screams pre-assumption or deception.
Yeah, but if you have a time lapse and one one point in the time lapse is stationary, if a plane flies by or a flock of birds, it's gonna cause a little. Because there was one I was watching, and the video claimed to be 8 full hours of night sky. But the whole Polaris, like, little smiley face movement it made didn't happen to the last, like, hour. And that kind of seems like once it makes that little scoop, it doesn't do anything else. So I mean, I don't know, but
exactly,
like I said,
it doesn't match their claim. It doesn't match the claim. Sure, it doesn't.
Right.
There's deception afoot, and we can smell it a mile off, right? And this is a folly. It's an intrigue more than anything else. All right. I wonder how they're trying to bullshit us this time. Because let's just break this down in terms of what it actually means to us. Well, does it matter? It undermines the fundamental premise of latitude and denies the very title of this star. If you just walk past those things and say, okay, your suggestion is it's moving. Well, so are all the other navigation stars. Does it make the slightest bit of difference? We've got them tracked in the almanac and we know where they're above at a given time. Yeah, they're moving. You take a chronometer out. Yeah, so you can mark the time that you measured the angle because it's moving over the land to different positions. So does this make the slightest bit of difference to us in our flat Earth argument? I'm not trying to undermine the panel in our discussion. I'm just as intrigued. I smell a deception and I go, oh yeah, I wonder why they're doing this. Normally when there's the necessity for this sort of deception, it's because it's very often, if not always, hiding a really glaring flat Earth proof that they want to try and undermine preemptively. So it's worth sniffing out these things, because I mean, no doubt there'll be a flat Earth at the end of this tunnel that needs a nice big dollop of bullshit slapped over the top of it, so that we'll sniff our way around a claim to be problem for flat Earthers. Like I say, when I saw this in a tweet with 2 other very similar documents to the one that we had snipped out and presented to us, it was being presented that flat Earthers need Polaris to be stationary. Because it doesn't, it's a globe proof. Like, okay, well, this is your fairly standard rank and file affirming the consequent fallacy, wrapped up in a false dichotomy. Shocking. Meanwhile, I know how the angles to the measurements of these stars are going to only ever be utilised on a flat Earth. Why the necessity for this with Polaris? Why strawman us with this specifically? For us, we know it's inconsequential. The angles to the stars are always going to prove a flat Earth. Why this? Well, there's going to be something behind it, isn't there, Brian? You can smell it too, can't you? To be sure.
I can't.
I didn't. There's something not right here. Because I know they added in with EQ mounts and telescopes and stuff, but there's something off here. There's so many things that have been micromanaged by the globe that you just can't trust anything. That's why when Adam was bringing up the precession of the equinoxes, I was like, and tell me, because I never looked into it, I was like, I don't trust that. It might come across as being a conspiratorial idiot, but I have to take that stance until I can prove, or until I can show, until it's possible for me for it to be absolutely proven to me. You know what I mean?
What the precession of the equinox?
Not the equinoxes. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, I'm saying that I was even conspiratorial about that because I wasn't sure what it was.
Right, but precession of the equinox means like every couple thousand years there's going to be a different North Star. The global flames 5,000 years ago was stupid.
That's not the precession. That's not what he's talking about.
Yeah, but that's when the whole like the precession is the wobble of the Earth, right? And when that little wobble starts moving across the sky.
No,
I could be wrong, but I thought precession of the equinoxes had to do with.
Hold off, guy. Hold off, guy. Adam, correct him.
Okay, so it's prominent star constellation. Okay, let's when you get your hippies saying the age of Aquarius is dawning, it's because we are proceeding, aren't we, from Pisces? Yeah, sorry, from Aries into Aquarius. Yeah, these are the way in which the long clock is described. That's the precession. Now, within the heliocentric model, there is also a pseudo claim, which is something that history. That the movement of that heavens is demonstrated in history. I can't attest to it because I'm not old enough. haven't lived within an epoch, which is about 2,000 years for the main constellation to change. That's one thing that history would support, I think, but I can't individually attest to. But the heliocentric claim is to claim a consequent of that would be that also, because it's a ball and the movement of the heavens is not anything other, and this precession is not anything other than a consequent of that ball wobbling on its axis. Other consequent of that, we explore the heliocentric model, is ultimately the North Star would change, which is why they claim the North Star would change, even though there's no evidence ever of the North Star ever changing.
Right. Yeah, that's my whole point. Because, like,
super duper.
Tony Whitcomb sent, how can Glovers have a north on a ball as the molten iron core has no magnetism due to the Curie point? They even need a flat earth north for that.
Very well done, Tony. Thank you very much. I'd like to interrupt this for a second. I know you guys were going on and on, but Paula Bible, you put a short time lapse video in the chat. I went ahead and put it in Discord, and I'm sharing it. If you guys can hit the screen, I'll go ahead and play it. It's very short. It's 10 seconds, but she said that you could see a small circle with Polaris. Now, I can't see it. Maybe my eyes are getting bad. Maybe somebody else can see it. So here we go. Do it again. I think I did see a little movement. It's hard to tell. Got it?
Why?
I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
You have to get the video where the stars make like a little trail. Because there's a whole bunch of them where the stars will move, but they're not making their little tails.
There's more to this. This isn't going to go away. It's clearly something that there's a good chance the ballers will get their teeth into for whatever reason. There's something from the Feast of Nonsense that this tallies up with. We just don't know what that is yet. It's not applicable to us. Our intrigue will obviously not wane. We'll get back into this, but I think we're at the point where we've got nothing but speculation to offer at this point.
Yep.
Well, I reckon that the declination system has been altered. That's what I reckon. To fit a situation that would suit Polaris, making a circle around a north central pole. That will be directly above the globe's north geographic pole. That's what I reckon is after happening.
If we're just going to talk about what we reckon, I'll give what I reckon then. Do you remember when you described how the system describes from the
Oh, stop, super duper, super mustache.
Mike 808 sent.
Oh, yeah, got it. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I haven't seen you in a coon's age, man. Go ahead, Nathan.
You know, when you were talking about the system that's using the analemma, well, that's obviously going to be a separate system in terms of the way that drifts throughout the seasons compared to something that's fixed, like Polaris. So, over the couple of hours that you guys were debating it, I was frantically searching through all the information I could about it. And when you were like, no, when Adam said no, the only deviation is going to be in this precession of the ages, as he described it, that's what I was coming across. And all the official documents, that's all they ever mentioned. Whereas, excuse me, in anti-flat Earth tweets and so forth, linking to videos of alleged Polaris doing this deviation. The only connection that I could see was where familiarity has only come from you, and you're describing that system for the globe that only works at a particular time when they start that system. I think it's at the equinox, but it was you that told me about it. So even though that's the connection I was drawing, I thought, well, I must draw that connection because I'm only drawing it because he's giving me the information about how the globe system drifts throughout the seasons, and one of their systems is dependent on it being at the vernal equinox. There you go. Like I say, to be continued for the audience. We will get to the bottom of this. It's certainly intriguing. Why do they need to make this claim? It's got to be consequential to Smick at the Feast on Nonsense, because it's certainly inconsequential to us. Oh, what? We measure Earth flat from moving stars all the time. If you're going to claim that Polaris moves, I don't agree and I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to our argument about measuring the angles to them.
Yep.
No, QE, I want you to just listen. We recognise that there is a slight offset from the central point of rotation of the star field, and we align an EQ mount. However, that angular movement change is dependent upon your latitude. Do you get the implications of that? So you can't invoke a ball with an infinite star field for that adjustment. The angular change should be the same. There shouldn't be an additional adjustment for it. It should be offset by an amount, and that angle's the same. For you to invoke that it's different, that invokes perspective. Which means the star field is perspective, not solely due to curvature. This is where I smell a rat in the descriptions of what's being ascribed, and the fact that there are certain contradictions from reality that mean that can't be true. Hence, the change in the position of adjustment for Polaris in the field when you align your EQ mount.
Well, let me add something in based off of the EQ, because the EQ mount has been brought up and the vernal equinox. The vernal equinox point, and I'm going to feed this into feed the EQ mount into it now in a second. Vernal equinox, right? When they're doing anything astronomical, they've got to pre-assume that they're at vernal equinox, which means that mathematically negates their 23.4 degree tilt of the globe, which only comes from the fact that the sun appears to move 23.4 degrees north and south of the equator, right? It negates that mathematically, right? And places, right, their angles to the celestial bodies, to the celestial dome, because it's the dome they're addressing, right? The perspective dome, not a celestial sphere. It places that at their equatorial plane, right? EQ mount, equatorial plane. They then pre-assume that their equatorial plane extends out into the celestial plane, which means that they have a much huger flat plane, and that is stationary, and the sky is moving, right? This is how they do what they do, whether it's in astronomy or celestial navigation. That is the same pre-assumption that happens. The EQ mount, and this is a point I made back in 2017 in I think it was my first presentation on Ranties or something. I made the point that the EQ mount proves that the Earth is stationary, right? And the reason it proves it's stationary because they're pre-assuming that that EQ mount is at their equatorial plane, right? Taking this angle to the celestial dome, and polar alignment, from what I could find, meant that there is no way they can move their EQ mount even a millimeter or it'll all be out. I said if the Earth was moving, if we were on a rotating globe that is rotating once a day, right, but also making an offset elliptical orbit of the sun once a year, would mean that it would be impossible for it to keep that EQ mount aligned with Polaris, right? It would be impossible for that to happen. Right? You might be able to explain it over a 24-hour period, but you can't explain it with an offset elliptical orbit of the sun over a 12-month period. You can't. It just doesn't work. And they went absolutely ballistic. Sean Hawkins, when I said that, Sean Hawkins started doing a big live stream, and there was a load of nonsense went on. But it's like I was just pointing out that it proves it's stationary, but that's how it's used. They use the EQ mount, pre-assuming it's at the equatorial plane, at vernal equinox, which extends the equatorial plane, makes it bigger, right? And they pre-assume that that's stationary and the celestials are moving. So it is pre-assumed that the EQ mount is stationary. It's literally pre-assumed that it's stationary.
Well, is the equinox not more in line with what the sun's doing?
The equinox. Well, that's about it's halfway between. It's at the equator. It's halfway between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. But they must. Yeah.
Hold on, I'm leading you somewhere. What is halfway between?
It's the sun is over the equator at equinox.
Right, this is the problem. So we've got a system that's describing what the sun does being convoluted with a system that's been derived from Polaris.
Well, yes and no, but the problem they have is that they can't refer to Kepler's analemma when they're addressing anything astronomical, which is what Kepler's...
Yeah, that's exactly my point. When you're talking about Kepler's analemma, you're talking about what the sun's doing. When you're talking about what the celestial plane would be in reference to.
When you're referring Kepler's analemma, you're talking about what the globe Earth is doing around the sun.
Right.
Which changes it.
Kepler's.
Well, you are. That's the whole point of the analemma.
Kepler's is to present it onto a ball. Why you see it sometimes stuck there in the Pacific.
That's what you just said.
Yeah, but don't differentiate that. The analemma is important, yeah, from just a flat Earth perspective. Those flat Earth elevation angles that are different throughout the year are important. Now, as you alluded to, that there's a point of alignment at the equinoxes twice a year when the sun passes over what we could describe as the equator. The equator being those 2 points of the year where sun's GP is equivalent to the 0 point of Polaris, where it sits on the horizon. That's where the two grids start to merge. How you overlay them.
There's two of them, and they are different systems. So there's going to be some deviation that they can screw in globe nonsense somewhere along that line between those two systems, and I suspect that's what's happening here. There you go. This was only my. This is what I reckon, by the way, because Brian did it.
You know what I think?
You're missing.
Hold on a second.
We're going to hear what QE reckons.
I reckon we need a presentation on this. I want the audience to be able to see this. I mean, it's fine talking about it, but Brian Adams, when you guys get back from vacation, you need to come up with a presentation on this. Got it?
We will.
That'd be good.
But I must point out something. No, there is nothing globe happening, Nathan. That's the point. There is no globe happening. That's why they must place it at vernal equinox. That's why they can't just use any time of the year, because then they must take in a 23.4 degree tilt, right, and other factors, right, of their globe. 23.4 degree tilt of their globe and other factors. This is the point. There is nothing globe happening. There's no rotating globe or anything like that happening when they're addressing vernal equinox and what they do in astronomy and celestial navigation, when they're pre-assuming the equatorial plane, extending out into the celestial plane, blah, 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 and the use of the latitude and longitude grid. There is nothing globe happening. That's the point. They're removing their globe completely.
Yeah, this is really cool discussion, and I want this broken down so a second grader can understand it. You follow me, guys? Brian Adams.
Once we do, we will.
Well, I looked this up the other day. What would be the? I can't remember what it was, but we have the tropics. Someone mentioned earlier, this is to do with the precession of the heavens over time, and really interesting this because in terms of celestial navigation, we've maintained names: the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn. These are the star fields that are in prominence, and when the sun's in this particular GP position, so at night, this is the one that fills the sky. But of course that's not true, because today they would be called the Tropic of Aquarius and Sagittarius. And it's I think it's about 3,000 years ago that the star field would be correct for you to state that it's the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, which is interesting when you think about the history of celestial navigation and our knowledge of the stars, for that to maintain for such a long time.
I was thinking that what happens is that every time there's a change, let's just say when we move into the age of Aquarius, that every time there's a change, that there isn't, see, within the heliocentrism, there's this big physical change that's happening and displacement that's happening. That's how they try and explain it. But I was thinking more that when this happens, it's like a total reset of the world. The world is reset. There's a whole new paradigm, within the world. We're not in the age of Aquarius at the moment. We're in Pisces, isn't it, Adam? And when we go into the age of Aquarius, the whole world is reset, complete reset. And that's why I think that we look back into history, we have no idea how some of the civilizations did what they did, or what they actually believed, or whatever. There's a lot of stuff there that's strange to us. And the reason I think is because there's a total reset happens every time there's a change. So when we go into the age of Aquarius, there'll be a reset of some kind. Now, I could be wrong. That's just speculation.
I don't think there has to be a reset. I think, like I said, more importantly, for me, it's just look at the way in which the terms we use today, how long ago the starfield as described would have to make it relevant. This is how long our knowledge of celestial navigation is. It's existed this long, to the point that the starfields have changed. We haven't changed these upper and lower boundary limits of the sun's GP position measured from a flat earth. Those initial definitions and the names that were given don't apply today. They would be different because we're in the age of Pisces. They relate to probably the age of Taurus. So is it the age of Aries and then Taurus before it? So Hebrew times, or pre-Hebrew. Yeah, pre-Hebrew, because Hebrews come in the age of Aries, which is the shepherds, the shepherd priests, hence why they identify like that. Yeah, so the age of the bull, the golden calf, that is when, as far as I know, this kind of dating system relates to. The knowledge dates to then as well, doesn't it?
I can't wait for this presentation. Neither can the audience. They were also saying, yeah, that they'd like something like that.
Whatever happened to Time Bandits?
It got Doc Brown.
Because of COVID, it's been delayed.
Yeah.
What's funny is that the guy we're likely to start talking about now in the video is an astronomer. And there's a lot of questions you could have for someone like that. But it's not possible to ask them stuff because they want to start telling you about globe. They want to start inserting globe and trying to, as opposed to just answering your questions, they want to start educating you about globe. It's just like, what is the point in having a conversation? At that point. Because the belief that that person holds is going to be inserted into the conversation.
Right. I said earlier, Brian, and this is the trouble with the globe. Look at what the globe will claim. They will claim that the North Star wasn't always the North Star. Look at history. That's a lie. That's not the case. Yeah, the whole system was set up, and we've used it for this long, and there's only ever been one North Star. Even if, what did they say back then? That it wasn't at the North Star, it was just off the North Star, and you get me? It would be.
Yeah.
This is not the North Star. Let me just finish. This is not the North Star moving between a very minute number of arc seconds around the center point of rotation, which, like I say, you can is demonstrated with perspective. This is about the whole procession of the heavens moving because of the Earth's wobble. This is what they claim, invoking that the North Star would only be a very temporary alignment, and how lucky we are today. They wouldn't have been lucky 3,000 years ago. That's the point. Yeah, it was still called the North Star.
Sorry, how do you know that 3,000 years ago they didn't call Polaris just a different name? Do you know what I mean? Like
what? Like,
let's just say we call it.
Wasn't a North Star then? If they called it something else, that star that was somewhere near the North, which they didn't, would have been another North Star. The ball.
No, I'm saying if they call it a different name than Polaris, let's just say they called it a different name than Polaris 3,000 years ago, but the star is still the star. That star is still there. It never moved, but they just called it a different name. Yes. Do you know what I mean? It's like that alone causes a major issue to the Globe claim that it was a different star. How do you know? It's the same car, just a different name. Do you know what I mean? It's not a Corolla, it's a Carina. Same car, or something stupid like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like just a same car, just a different name on it. So, or a boat, same boat. It used to be the Jenny, and now it's, I don't know.
Nancy.
Michelle. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. Same boat. Do you know what I mean? Just different name. Straight away, they can't disprove that. So there's something they can't go past immediately. So it's just ridiculous claims. And Anthony Riley pointed this out. And what they're talking about was 26,000 years ago, right? There was no one around, right? If you go by, Anthony pointed out, if you go by what the historians say, there was no human beings 26,000 years ago. If we just use their own claims about how long ago humans were around.
Their own conjurings.
Yeah, their own conjurings. So your own conjurings debunk your own other conjurings.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get to ask the astronomer today because I false advertised. We're not going to be able to get to Professor Robert Parks today. We'll put it off until we get back to Ballbusters again. It's not a big deal. I thought it was an interesting talk here and an even better upcoming presentation. I am absolutely for sure of that.
Well, Tent Man has done a lot of work on this as well. He's been researching a lot, and he sent me stuff as well. Sorry, Adam, go on. That's all.
It's important to recognise that this is a defence that's invoked only by the heliocentric paradigm. Okay, and what they do is they go back and they go into stellarium and they rotate the Earth back in time with the assumption that precession is a cause of the Earth wobbling.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, in doing that, it draws them to some conclusions, and they can align this rotational north of a ball Earth with certain stars in the past. Now, I don't disagree with that, and you can do that. And there's, I think it's Thuban or something like that they can do. No one can see these stars. What's magnificent about the heavens that was created for us is the North Star's one of the brightest. It's there. It can be seen. Whether you're close or far, it is a guiding light put there for purpose. You may be able to attribute in your theoretical bullshit heliocentric paradigm rotating it back if you've got a wobble that's caused by a wobbly Earth. That means it could align to something, but the thing that you align it to, it don't light up. No one can bleeding see it, mate, unless you got a telescope. What are you on about?
Yeah.
It always made sense to me that Polaris would be the story in the birth of Christ. It's the only star that seemed to make sense in that story. Just as an aside note, follow something can have it hover over a position unless it's Polaris.
There's a little different take on that, but that's a story for another day.
Glad you decided to forego covering a video because this is just nice to just have a. I wanted this on my Thursday show. I didn't get it. But this is nice, right? Just chit-chatting, shooting the breeze about this stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Can I make a point?
Yeah, go ahead.
That
Irish.
If they're making a claim, I'll make it now then. If they're making a claim that, right, that the globe that they're claiming we're on is wobbling, right? And so that makes Polaris go around in a circle around what would be the north central pole, or their claimed north central pole. Then how is that possible for that to happen? And Polaris be this big, huge thing that is giving the globe parallel light rays, right? That it's always there no matter what you do, right? Kind of thing. How is it possible for those two things to coincide? Because it seems to me that they can have Polaris move off position when they need it to, but they also need it to be so big that you can't escape it, kind of thing. If you understand what I mean. It's like there's a little contradiction going on there, because they're trying to claim that the wobble of a globe is making Polaris appear to circle a central point, right, once a day. But they're also trying to claim that Polaris is so big that there's absolutely no way you could.
No. Wobble of the globe causes the rotation of the star field over 20. I'm going to go 25,000 years. Yeah? That's the precession. So that the epochs, Aquarius, etc., they take 2,000 years each to do. So from Christ, 2,000 years is the age of Pisces, the age of the fish. Hebrew 2,000 years is the age of Aries, the lamb, the shepherds. The golden calf age is the 2,000 years, the age of Taurus. That's do that 2,000 and a bit years 12 times, you've got that full wobble in the change of the star field. And that is the reason, the invocation, that the position of Polaris would change by them.
But they're also claiming that Polaris is off center from their geographic North Pole, and Sigma Octantis is off center from their geographic South Pole, right? They're also claiming that, and they make a circle around both those points.
Say this super Polaris.
Say super chat.
Super chat.
Phoenix Rising 86 said, I guess in quotation, so the age of Aquarius in astrology is either the current or forthcoming astrological age, depending on the method of calculation. That's the end quotations. Wiki, when in high school, I heard astrology was 2,000-ish years off. Check your signs, folks. And geek emojis. There.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Phoenix Rising. Appreciate it.
Best I could check is it like soon to. There isn't a point, because the way in which the star signs themselves slightly overlap and intermerge, there isn't necessarily, say, a definitive these cusps. I think if you look at, who is it gets sold by his brothers?
Joseph.
Yeah. I think when he comes later, he tells them, and he's being kind to them, he says, tell them you're cattle herders, doesn't he? Yeah. Not shepherds. There are some people that would interpret that. Just make sure you don't tell them that you're this new Israelite, you're in this new Israelite religion, which is this dawning age, looking at the stars. Make sure you just pretend you're still in this age, otherwise you'll have issues. That's the kind of epochs that are designed. And when Brian said resets, I don't think so. It's just there's a strange correlation. It doesn't need a reset. It's just seems to be it correlates too. So if you look at history and accept history as it's timelined, these things do kind of correlate a bit. Which just makes you wonder why the hippies in the 70s are going, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, because the earliest I see is like 2150 or something.
They were high.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not that long.
They had open-toed sandals and really bad breath, too.
There was no section for them to come in my school.
Oh, before we go, because we're going to go here in a few minutes, just want to remind everyone. Yeah, we are. Just want to remind everyone that tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. U.S. Central Time is another show, and it's with Matt Dillahunty and Goober Gibbons. They want to put their toe in flat Earth and can't see if we can't whack off a couple heads. It's going to be fun. Stay tuned.
Matt Dillon?
I have never covered him before. I've run across him here and there. He goes around. I think he's atheistic or something. I think he's the fifth horseman of the apocalypse. It's a frog horse. I don't know. He's with Sam Harris and all those characters. What? Somebody? What?
Yeah, I'm laughing because she said he's a frog horse.
And Goober Gibbons, like I said, I had a treatment on her before. She's an evotard. They are gonna take their foot and insert it right in their mouths. It is astonishing. The Dunning-Kruger. This is beyond clinical level Dunning-Kruger when you see this, folks. I promise you. You're not going to believe it. They just. I don't get it. I don't get the stupidity. They just waller in their utter ignorance, and they think they're brilliant. You're going to have to see it. It's hard to describe it. But stay tuned tomorrow for that. 3:30 p.m. U.S. Central. Nathan.
Yes.
Take us home, sir.
With that, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you for tuning in, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member if QE has memberships, on PayPal and all that good stuff. And yeah, tune in tomorrow. I've been Nathan Oakley. See you all in the next video.